While you're grinding 9 to 5, some guy in Ohio made $50,000 selling pet rocks. Sounds crazy? That's actually one of the success stories. The real question is, what schemes were so stupid they bankrupted entire towns? 1. Charles Ponzi didn't invent financial fraud, but boy did he perfect it. This Italian immigrant arrived in Boston with big dreams and even bigger promises. His scheme was beautifully simple. Invest with him, and he'd double your money in just 45 days. Not 46 days, not 2 months, exactly 45 days with a guaranteed 50% return. Here's where it gets interesting. Ponzi claimed he was making money through international postal reply coupons. These little slips of paper could theoretically be bought cheap in one country and sold for profit in another due to currency differences. Sounds legit, right? Well, the entire global supply of these coupons couldn't have generated even a fraction of the money Ponzi was promising. But people didn't care about the details. They saw their neighbors getting rich and wanted in. Ponzi was paying early investors exactly what he promised, using money from new investors. Classic pyramid structure, though nobody called it that yet. The guy was pulling in millions during the 1920s, when a million actually meant something. Then reality hit hard. When investigators started asking uncomfortable questions, the whole thing collapsed faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. Investors lost what would be about $314 million in today's money. Ponzi himself ended up in prison, then got deported back to Italy. But his name? That stuck around forever. Now every time someone runs this type of scam, we call it a Ponzi scheme. Talk about leaving a legacy. 2. Charles Ponzi didn't invent the scam that bears his name, but he sure perfected it. This Italian immigrant arrived in Boston in 1903 with $2.50 in his pocket and big dreams. By 1920, he was promising investors something that sounded too good to be true, because it absolutely was. The scheme was brilliantly simple. Ponzi claimed he could deliver 50% returns in just 45 days by trading international postal reply coupons. These coupons could supposedly be bought cheap in one country and sold for profit in another. Sounds legit, right? Well, the math never worked, but Ponzi's charm did. Here's where it gets wild. Ponzi wasn't actually trading any coupons. He was just using money from new investors to pay the earlier ones. Classic robbing Peter to pay Paul, but with a fancy Italian accent and a lot more style. The man had charisma that could sell ice to penguins. Word spread like wildfire through Boston's Italian community and beyond. People lined up outside his office with their life savings. At the peak of his operation, Ponzi was taking in $250,000 per day. That's roughly $3.5 million in today's money. His investors included barbers, seamstresses, and even police officers who should have known better. The whole thing crashed in August 1920, when a Boston newspaper started asking uncomfortable questions. When adjusted for inflation, investors lost about $314 million in 2024 dollars. Ponzi got 14 years in prison, but his legacy lives on in every investment scam that follows his playbook. 3. Sam Bankman-Fried looked like your average college kid who forgot to shower, messy hair, wrinkled t-shirts, and a habit of playing video games during million-dollar business meetings. But this scruffy guy built one of the world's biggest cryptocurrency exchanges in just 3 years. FTX launched in 2019, and by 2021, it was handling billions in trades daily. The problem? Bankman-Fried was secretly using customer money like his personal piggy bank. While people trusted FTX to hold their Bitcoin and other digital coins safely, he was moving those funds to cover losses at his trading company, Alameda Research. Think of it like a bank manager taking money from customer accounts to pay his gambling debts. Except the gambling debts were in the billions. His net worth peaked at $26.5 billion in 2021. Forbes called him the richest person under 30. He lived in a $40 million penthouse in the Bahamas with 9 roommates, including his on and off girlfriend who helped run the companies. They threw lavish parties and donated millions to political campaigns, all while customer funds disappeared into risky trades. When crypto prices crashed in 2022, everything unraveled fast. Customers wanted their money back, but FTX didn't have it. The exchange filed for bankruptcy in November 2022, leaving over 1 million people unable to access their investments. Bankman-Fried got arrested and sentenced to 25 years in prison. His roommates? Most of them testified against him in court to get lighter sentences for themselves. 4. The subprime mortgage crisis didn't happen overnight. Banks spent years handing out home loans to people who couldn't afford them, then packaged those risky debts and sold them as safe investments to other financial institutions. What could go wrong? Well, everything. Here's how the scam worked. Mortgage brokers earned bigger commissions for selling higher risk loans, so they pushed adjustable rate mortgages with teaser rates that seemed affordable at first. A family making $30,000 a year could suddenly qualify for a $400,000 house. The broker got paid, the bank got paid, and everyone passed the risk down the line like a financial hot potato. Banks didn't keep these loans on their books. Instead, they bundled thousands of mortgages together and sold them as mortgage-backed securities to investors worldwide. Rating agencies like Moody's and Standard & Poor's slapped AAA ratings on these packages, claiming they were as safe as government bonds. Spoiler alert, they weren't. The housing bubble burst in 2007, when home prices started falling, and those teaser rates reset to much higher payments. Millions of families faced foreclosure. The safe investments turned toxic, wiping out pension funds, insurance companies, and banks across the globe. Bear Stearns collapsed first, then Lehman Brothers. The entire financial system nearly imploded. Taxpayers ended up bailing out the banks with over $700 billion through the TARP program. Meanwhile, over 6 million families lost their homes, and unemployment soared to 10%. The people who created this mess, most got bonuses while their victims lost everything. 5. Charles Ponzi didn't invent financial fraud, but he sure made it famous. This Italian immigrant arrived in Boston with big dreams and even bigger promises. His scheme was brilliantly simple. Invest with him, and he'd return 50% profit in just 45 days. Sounds too good to be true. Well, thousands of people in the 1920s didn't think so. Ponzi claimed he was making money through international postal reply coupons. Buy them cheap in one country, sell them for more in another. The math seemed to work on paper, but here's the thing. Ponzi wasn't actually trading these coupons at all. He was just using new investors' money to pay off the old ones. Classic move, right? The whole operation attracted millions of dollars from eager investors who wanted their slice of easy money. People mortgaged their homes, cashed out their savings, and borrowed from friends to get in on the action. For a while, Ponzi looked like a genius. He lived in a mansion, drove fancy cars, and became a local celebrity. But then reality hit hard. When investigators started digging into his business, they found almost no postal coupons. The entire operation collapsed faster than a house of cards in a windstorm. Investors lost everything, about $314 million in today's money. Ponzi went to prison, but his name lived on forever. Now whenever someone runs this type of scam, we call it a Ponzi scheme. 6. Charles Ponzi didn't invent the scam that bears his name, but he sure made it famous. This Italian immigrant arrived in America with big dreams and even bigger lies. In 1920, he promised investors a 50% return in just 45 days by trading postal reply coupons between countries. Sounds complicated. That was the point. The scheme was brilliantly simple underneath all the fancy talk. Ponzi would take money from new investors and use it to pay the earlier ones. No actual investing happened. No postal coupons were traded. Just money moving from one pocket to another, with Ponzi skimming off the top like a financial magician. Word spread fast in Boston's Italian community. Friends told friends, who told more friends. Within months, people were lining up outside his office with their life savings. The man was pulling in millions during the roaring 20s when most folks made a few $100s a year. But here's the thing about pyramid schemes. They need fresh blood to survive. When new investors stopped showing up, the whole thing collapsed faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. By the time authorities shut him down, investors had lost what would be worth about $314 million in today's money. Ponzi served prison time, got deported, and died broke in Brazil. Yet his name lives on every time someone promises guaranteed returns with other people's money. The Federal Trade Commission still uses his playbook to spot modern scams, because human greed apparently never goes out of style. 7. Fake lottery winning scams have been fooling people for decades, and they're surprisingly simple. You get a letter in the mail, claiming you've won millions in some foreign lottery. The catch: you never entered any lottery, but the scammers don't care about that detail. These letters look official, complete with fancy letterheads and convincing signatures. They'll tell you that you've won the European Mega Lottery or the Australian Golden Jackpot. The amounts are always huge, usually between $500,000 and $2 million, just enough to change your life forever. Then comes the hook. Before you can claim your prize, you need to pay taxes or processing fees up front. They might ask for $500, $2,000, or even $5,000. It sounds reasonable when you think you're getting millions back, right? Well, here's the thing. No legitimate lottery requires you to pay money before receiving winnings. Ever. Real lotteries deduct taxes from your prize, not the other way around. Seniors get targeted the most because scammers think they're more trusting and have retirement savings to tap into. The letters often create urgency, saying you only have days to respond or you'll lose your winnings forever. Postal inspectors investigate these scams constantly because they cross international borders and use the mail system. But catching the criminals is tough, since many operate from other countries. The fake lotteries don't exist, the offices are empty, and victims rarely see their money again. The only winners are the scammers themselves. 8. Frank Abagnale didn't just break the law, he turned deception into an art form. By age 21, this master con artist had impersonated an airline pilot, a doctor, and a lawyer while cashing millions in fraudulent checks across 26 countries. His story became so legendary that Hollywood made Catch Me If You Can about his exploits. The pilot scheme was brilliantly simple. Abagnale called Pan Am, claimed to be an employee who lost his uniform, and convinced them to make him a new one. He then deadheaded on over 250 flights. That's when pilots catch free rides in cockpits. Airlines trusted other pilots completely back then. No background checks, no verification calls, just a confident guy in uniform walking onto planes. But here's the twisted part. Abagnale never actually flew any aircraft. He just sat there, chatted with real pilots, and learned their lingo. When flight attendants asked technical questions, he'd deflect with charm and fake expertise. The whole thing was pure theater, and everyone bought the performance. His fake doctor stint was even more dangerous. Using a forged Harvard diploma, he supervised real medical residents at a Georgia hospital for nearly a year. Actual patients depended on his decisions. He avoided direct patient care by working night shifts and claiming fatigue. But people's lives hung in the balance of his lies. The check fraud was his real moneymaker though. Abagnale figured out how to manipulate bank routing numbers and created fake employee payroll checks. Banks cashed them instantly, because the forgeries looked perfect. His criminal spree finally ended when French police caught him, but the FBI later hired him as a consultant. Sometimes the best defense against fraud comes from former fraudsters themselves. 9. Charles Ponzi didn't invent the scam that bears his name, but he sure perfected it. This Italian immigrant arrived in Boston with big dreams and even bigger promises. In 1920, he told investors he could turn their money into gold through international postal reply coupons. Sounds boring, right? Well, boring made him famous. Here's how it worked. Ponzi claimed he could buy these postal coupons cheap in one country and sell them for profit in another. Currency differences would make everyone rich, at least, that's what he told people. The reality, he was using new investors' money to pay off the old ones. Classic move, but nobody saw it coming back then. The promise was irresistible. 50% profit in just 45 days. People lined up around the block to hand over their life savings. Word spread like wildfire through Boston's neighborhoods. Your neighbor made money, so you wanted in too. Ponzi collected millions from thousands of desperate Americans hoping to strike it rich. But here's the thing about pyramid schemes. They always collapse. When investigators finally looked at Ponzi's books, they found almost no actual postal coupon trading. The whole operation was smoke and mirrors. By the time authorities shut him down in 1920, investors had lost roughly $20 million. That's about $314 million in today's money. Ponzi himself, he served multiple prison sentences and was eventually deported back to Italy. The man who promised everyone wealth died broke in Brazil. His legacy lives on every time someone runs the same Ponzi game. 10. Weight loss supplements flood the market with promises that sound too good to be true. They are. Companies slap labels on bottles claiming their pills will melt away 30 pounds in 30 days without diet or exercise. The FDA doesn't approve supplements for overnight weight loss because it's medically impossible and potentially dangerous. Most of these miracle pills contain nothing more than caffeine, fiber, or herbal extracts that do absolutely nothing for fat loss. Some contain harmful stimulants that can cause heart problems, anxiety, or liver damage. The really sketchy ones include prescription drugs that haven't been tested for safety. People pop these pills expecting magic, and instead get jittery hands and empty wallets. The before and after photos plastered across ads, stock images, or heavily photoshopped fakes. The glowing testimonials come from paid actors or completely made-up people. Companies hire marketing teams to create fake success stories that tug at emotions and open purses. When the Federal Trade Commission catches these scammers, they get slapped with massive fines. But new companies pop up faster than authorities can shut them down. They simply rebrand the same worthless products with new flashy names and start the cycle again. The cruel irony hits hardest here. People desperate to lose weight spend hundreds on supplements that don't work, then blame themselves when the pounds don't disappear. They often gain more weight from the stress and disappointment. Real weight loss requires lifestyle changes, not magical thinking in pill form. These companies profit from false hope, while customers struggle with both their weight and their bank accounts. 11. Cash gifting circles sound like the nicest scam ever invented. Who doesn't want to give and receive gifts, right? Well, these aren't birthday parties. They're illegal pyramid schemes dressed up in feel-good language that would make your grandmother weep. Here's how the con works. You gift money to someone at the center of a circle, usually between $1,000 and $5,000. Makes you feel generous already, doesn't it? Then you recruit 2 friends to join below you. They each recruit 2 more friends. Eventually you're supposed to move to the center and receive gifts from 8 new people. Simple math says you'll make 4 times your original investment. The problem? Math also says these things collapse faster than a house of cards in a tornado. For every person who reaches the center, 8 people must join at the bottom. After just a few levels, you'd need more participants than exist in your entire city. The people at the top cash out, while everyone else holds empty gift bags. Promoters love targeting religious communities and close-knit groups. They use words like blessing and abundance instead of investment or profit. This isn't generosity, it's manipulation with a bow on top. The law sees right through the pretty packaging though. These circles violate federal pyramid scheme regulations in every state. Most participants lose their money within weeks. Even worse, they often pressure friends and family to join, destroying relationships along with bank accounts. The only real gift here is a lesson in why good intentions can't fix bad math. 12. Charles Ponzi wasn't trying to become history's most famous fraudster when he stepped off the boat from Italy in 1903. The guy was broke, spoke broken English, and had already served jail time for forgery. But by 1920, he'd figured out something that would make his name synonymous with financial fraud forever. His scheme was beautifully simple, which is probably why it worked so well. Ponzi promised investors a 50% return in just 45 days, not 45 months or 45 weeks. 45 days. He claimed he was making money through international postal reply coupons, buying them cheap in one country and selling them for more in another. Sounds technical enough to be real, right? Well, that's exactly what people thought. The reality was much different. Ponzi wasn't buying any coupons or making any international trades. He was just taking money from new investors and using it to pay off the earlier ones. Classic robbing Peter to pay Paul, except Peter kept getting bigger and Paul kept getting greedier. For a while it actually worked. People saw their friends getting paid exactly what Ponzi promised, so they threw in their life savings too. Word spread like wildfire through Boston's Italian-American community and beyond. Within months, Ponzi was pulling in millions of dollars from thousands of investors who thought they'd found the secret to easy money. When the whole thing collapsed in August 1920, investors had lost about $20 million. That's roughly $314 million in today's money. Ponzi went to prison, but his name lived on forever attached to this type of scam. 13. Real estate flipping can make people rich. That's what the promoters tell you anyway. They buy rundown houses, promise massive returns to investors, then watch everything crumble when the market reality hits. The whole scheme relies on one crucial lie: inflated property values. Here's how it works. Scammers identify distressed properties in declining neighborhoods. They purchase these homes for cheap, maybe $30,000 for a house that needs serious work. Then comes the magic trick: fraudulent appraisals. They pay corrupt appraisers to value these dumps at $150,000 or more. Suddenly a house with rotting floors and a leaky roof becomes a diamond in the rough. The con artists then approach investors, often retirees with nest eggs they're hoping to grow. They show glossy presentations about profit margins and guaranteed returns. Buy this property for $120,000, they say. We'll fix it up and sell it for $180,000 within 6 months. The math looks incredible on paper. But when reality crashes in, those houses aren't worth half what investors paid. The promised renovations never happen, or they're done so poorly the homes become unsellable. Market conditions change, and suddenly nobody wants to buy overpriced houses in bad neighborhoods. Investors find themselves stuck with mortgages on worthless properties. Many lose their life savings and face foreclosure on their own homes when they can't make payments. The scammers, they've already moved on to the next group of victims, leaving behind a trail of financial devastation and broken dreams. 14. Publishers have been selling dreams in paperback form for decades, and the get-rich-quick book industry might be the most perfectly legal scam ever invented. These authors promise financial freedom in weeks, not years. They flood airport bookstores and hotel seminar tables with titles like Millionaire in 30 Days or Secret Wealth Formula Revealed. The irony: the only person getting rich is the author selling you the book. Here's how the hustle works. Writers craft compelling stories about their own supposed riches, then package basic financial advice everyone already knows. Save money, invest wisely, work hard, revolutionary stuff, right? But they wrap these obvious tips in mysterious language about insider secrets and hidden strategies. The real strategy is selling hope to desperate people. The worst part isn't the recycled advice, it's what these books don't tell you. Most authors make their money from book sales and speaking fees, not from the methods they're teaching. They're not real estate moguls or stock market wizards. They're professional motivational speakers who figured out that selling dreams pays better than delivering results. Hotel seminars are where the real money flows. Authors use their books as bait to pack conference rooms with eager buyers. Then they sell $2,000 courses and $5,000 coaching programs. The books cost $20, but they're just the appetizer. The main course costs thousands more. Meanwhile, readers rarely see results because the books focus on motivation instead of practical steps. You'll find plenty of cheerleading but very few actionable strategies that actually work in the real world. 15. The promise was irresistible. Buy a machine, plug it into your wall, and watch Bitcoin magically appear in your digital wallet. Thousands of people fell for Bitcoin mining machine scams, believing they could turn their spare bedroom into a money-printing factory. These weren't just any victims either. Engineers, teachers, even some tech-savvy folks got fooled by slick marketing that made cryptocurrency mining sound like printing money at home. The scammers sold machines for anywhere from $500 to $5,000, claiming each device would generate hundreds of dollars in Bitcoin monthly. What arrived instead? Either complete junk that couldn't mine anything or nothing at all. Some victims received boxes filled with random computer parts that looked impressive but had zero mining capability. The cruel irony: real mining requires industrial-scale operations consuming massive amounts of electricity. A home device powerful enough to mine profitable amounts of Bitcoin would probably melt your house's electrical system. But here's where it gets really sneaky. The electricity costs alone would have eaten up any potential profits, even if the machines worked perfectly. Bitcoin mining difficulty increases over time, making older equipment obsolete within months. The scammers knew this, of course. They just counted on their marks, not understanding the technical details. Many victims never received their magical money machines at all. After sending wire transfers or cryptocurrency payments, they'd watch shipping dates get pushed back repeatedly. Customer service would go silent. Websites would vanish overnight. The dream of passive Bitcoin income turned into expensive lessons about doing proper research before investing in get-rich-quick schemes. 16. Multi-level marketing companies love selling diet shakes because desperate people make easy targets. The pitch sounds irresistible. Lose weight while building a business empire from your kitchen table. Companies like Herbalife and countless smaller operations have perfected this formula over decades. They promise financial freedom through protein powder and meal replacements that supposedly melt fat faster than ice cream on hot pavement. The reality hits different. New recruits must buy starter kits costing hundreds or thousands of dollars. These packages contain overpriced shake mixes, supplements, and marketing materials that look professional but deliver amateur results. Monthly auto-ship requirements keep draining bank accounts whether products sell or not. Want to stay active in the program? Better keep ordering those cases of vanilla and chocolate disappointment. Then there's the recruitment pressure. Success doesn't come from selling shakes to neighbors who actually want them. The real money allegedly flows from building a downline of other hopeful entrepreneurs. Friends become potential customers. Family gatherings turn into sales pitches. Social media feeds transform into before and after photo galleries that nobody asked to see. Mathematical reality crushes dreams faster than a broken blender. Industry studies consistently show that 99% of MLM participants lose money rather than earn it. The shake companies themselves often collapse within a few years, leaving distributors with garages full of expired inventory. But new companies keep launching with fresh names and identical promises. Different label, same bitter taste. The founders get rich while distributors get stuck with monthly shipments of false hope disguised as nutritional supplements. 17. Picture this: you're scrolling through social media and see an ad featuring your favorite celebrity raving about some miracle weight loss tea. The star looks amazing, the testimonial sounds genuine, and thousands of people are commenting about their incredible results. There's just one tiny problem: that celebrity has never heard of the product and definitely didn't endorse it. Welcome to the wild world of fake celebrity endorsements, where scammers steal famous faces to sell everything from diet pills to cryptocurrency schemes. These fraudsters know exactly what they're doing. They understand that people trust celebrities, especially when it comes to beauty, health, and money-making opportunities. So they simply take photos from red carpet events, magazine shoots, or social media posts and slap them onto fake advertisements. The process is ridiculously simple these days. Advanced photo editing software and AI technology make it possible to create convincing fake endorsements in minutes. Scammers can even generate fake video testimonials that look surprisingly real. They'll use celebrity names, faces, and fabricated quotes like "I lost 30 pounds in 2 weeks with this amazing supplement," or "I made $50,000 last month using this secret investment strategy." But here's where it gets interesting. Celebrities are fighting back hard. Major stars regularly file lawsuits against companies using their images without permission. Oprah Winfrey has sued dozens of diet supplement companies. Ellen DeGeneres took legal action against cryptocurrency scammers using her face. Even lesser-known celebrities hire teams of lawyers to hunt down fake endorsements and shut them down through cease and desist letters. Social media platforms are constantly playing whack-a-mole with these scams, but new ones pop up faster than they can remove the old ones. 18. Anti-aging creams promising to turn back the clock in weeks flooded the market with bold claims that would make Ponce de Leon jealous. These magical potions advertised miraculous transformations, complete with before and after photos that looked suspiciously perfect. The reality? Most contained basic moisturizers dressed up in fancy packaging and sold at premium prices. Companies behind these scams knew exactly what buttons to push. They targeted insecure consumers with phrases like "Hollywood's best-kept secret" and "dermatologist-approved formula." The truth was far less glamorous. Many products contained ingredients you could find in drugstore lotions for a fraction of the cost. Some even caused skin irritation and allergic reactions, leaving users worse off than when they started. The subscription trap became their favorite weapon. Customers thought they were buying a single jar for $19.95, only to discover automatic monthly charges of $89.95 hitting their credit cards. The fine print, buried in barely readable text, locked them into contracts harder to escape than Alcatraz. Customer service lines either didn't exist or connected to overseas call centers trained in the art of refusing refunds. Then there were the fake celebrity endorsements. Ads claimed famous actresses swore by their products, complete with fabricated quotes and stolen photos. When these stars discovered their likeness being used, lawsuits flew faster than gossip in a small town, but the damage was already done. Thousands of consumers had already fallen for the false promises, leaving them with empty wallets and the same wrinkles they started with. 19. Phishing emails claiming to be from your bank have become the digital equivalent of highway robbery, except the robbers wear suits and work from laptops. These fake messages look incredibly convincing, complete with official logos, proper formatting, and urgent language designed to make you panic. The scammers behind these operations study real bank communications so closely that even tech-savvy people get fooled. The typical phishing email arrives with subject lines like "Urgent, Account Security Alert," or "Your account will be suspended." Inside, the message claims there's suspicious activity on your account, and you need to verify your information immediately. They provide a convenient link that takes you to what looks exactly like your bank's website. Every detail matches perfectly: nice the colors, fonts, even the security warnings at the bottom. But here's the kicker: that website is completely fake. When you enter your username, password, and account details, you're handing over the keys to your financial kingdom. Within hours, scammers can drain checking accounts, max out credit cards, or open new accounts in your name. The really clever ones don't hit your account immediately. They wait weeks or months, making the theft harder to trace back to that one email you clicked. What makes this scam particularly nasty is how it preys on our trust in institutions. Banks spend millions building customer confidence, and scammers exploit that trust for pennies on the dollar. The attacks surged after 2010, as more people started banking online, giving criminals a massive new hunting ground filled with potential victims. 20. Penny stock pump and dumps became the Wild West of investing during the 1990s. These weren't your grandmother's blue chip stocks. We're talking about companies trading for less than $5 a share, often with zero profits and questionable business models. The scam worked like clockwork. First, fraudsters would quietly buy massive amounts of these dirt cheap shares. Then came the marketing blitz. Cold calls flooded American homes during dinner time. This is the next Microsoft salespeople would shout into phones. Get in now before it explodes. Email lists buzzed with hot tips about revolutionary technologies that existed only on paper. Message boards lit up with fake testimonials from investors who claimed they'd tripled their money overnight. The beautiful thing about penny stocks, it didn't take much money to move prices dramatically. When thousands of people started buying based on the hype, share prices would rocket from 50 cents to $5 in days. That's when the scammers struck. They'd dump every single share they owned, pocketing massive profits while regular investors watched their sure thing crash back to pennies. The aftermath was brutal. Retirement accounts evaporated. College funds disappeared. The Securities and Exchange Commission eventually cracked down hard, pursuing scammers with federal charges and hefty prison sentences. But the damage was done. Millions of Americans learned the expensive lesson that if someone calls you with a guaranteed stock tip, the only guarantee is that you'll probably lose your shirt. 21. Mystery shopping sounds legitimate at first glance. Companies really do hire people to test their customer service by making purchases and reporting back. But scammers turned this real job into a weapon against desperate job seekers. The fake version works like this. You get contacted about being a mystery shopper with an urgent first assignment. They'll mail you a check for maybe $2,000 and tell you to deposit it. Keep $300 for yourself. Then buy gift cards worth $1,700 to test a store's gift card process. Sounds reasonable, right? Here's where things get ugly. That check they sent you, completely fake. Banks are required to make funds available quickly, even from bad checks, so the money shows up in your account temporarily. You rush out, buy those gift cards, and send the codes to the scammer. Then, about a week later, the bank discovers the check was fraudulent. They reverse the deposit, and you're stuck paying back the full $2,000. The scammers walk away with $1,700 in gift cards they can easily convert to cash. You're left with a massive debt to your bank, and possibly a closed account. The Federal Trade Commission received over 15,000 complaints about fake mystery shopper schemes in recent years. Real mystery shopping companies never send checks up front or ask you to wire money anywhere. They pay you after you complete assignments, just like any normal job. The desperation of job seekers makes this scam particularly cruel and effective. 22. Work-from-home schemes targeting desperate job seekers have been around forever, but they really exploded during tough economic times. The pitch sounds incredible. Make $500 a day doing simple data entry from your kitchen table. Who wouldn't want that? But here's where things get sketchy fast. These scammers prey on people who need money yesterday. They place ads everywhere, wish job boards, social media, even newspaper classifieds. The hook is always the same. Easy work, great pay, no experience required. Sounds too good to be true. Well, it absolutely is. Then comes the twist that should make everyone run. They want money up front for training materials or starter kits. Real employers pay you, not the other way around. The desperate people often ignore this giant red flag, because they want to believe the dream is real. What do victims actually get for their hard-earned cash? Usually a cheap binder filled with outdated information about freelance websites anyone can find for free online. Some kits contain basic typing tests or links to legitimate job sites that charge nothing to join. The promised flood of high-paying work assignments never materializes. The cruel irony hits hard when unemployment spikes. Scammers know exactly when people are most vulnerable and ramp up their advertising. They target recent layoffs, single parents, and anyone posting about needing work on social media platforms. Most victims lose between $50 to $500 on these worthless packages. The scammers disappear when complaints pile up, only to resurface weeks later with slightly different company names and identical promises. 23. The government gives away free money all the time, but they keep it secret from regular folks. That's what these scam artists want you to believe when they sell their free government grant guides for anywhere from $39 to $199. Back in the 1990s, this became a massive operation targeting desperate families who needed cash fast. Here's the kicker though. The government has never charged anyone for information about grants or assistance programs. Ever. These guides promised to unlock hidden government funds that supposedly sat waiting for smart people who knew where to look. The reality? Most of these books contained nothing more than worthless lists copied from free government websites. You could find the same information by spending 10 minutes on official.gov sites without paying a dime. But the scammers knew something important about human psychology. People believe that valuable information should cost money. The phone support these companies promised was basically non-existent. When victims called with questions about applying for grants, they either got busy signals or representatives who couldn't answer basic questions about the programs listed in their own books. Many customers discovered that half the grant programs mentioned in their expensive guides had been discontinued years earlier. What made this scam particularly cruel was its timing. These ads ran heavily during economic downturns when families were struggling to pay bills or facing foreclosure. The scammers preyed on hope, selling the fantasy that somewhere in Washington bureaucrats had set aside money specifically for people like them. The Federal Trade Commission eventually cracked down on the biggest operations, but not before millions of Americans had wasted their money on these useless guides. 24. Drop shipping sounds like the perfect side hustle, doesn't it? No inventory, no shipping headaches, just pure profit rolling in while you sleep. That's exactly what thousands of online ads promised during the e-commerce boom of the late 2010s. The pitch was irresistible. Set up an online store, find cheap products from overseas suppliers, mark up the prices and watch money pour in automatically. Here's where things got messy fast. These gurus charged anywhere from $500 to $5,000 for their proven systems and secret supplier lists. What they didn't mention: the suppliers they recommended sold cheap junk that broke immediately or never arrived at all. Customers flooded these new drop shippers with angry complaints and return requests. The real kicker came when platforms like Amazon and eBay started cracking down. They suspended accounts left and right for selling counterfeit goods or having terrible customer reviews. These aspiring entrepreneurs found themselves banned from major selling platforms within weeks of starting. Most of these courses taught the same basic information you could find free on YouTube. The exclusive supplier networks were just links to AliExpress that anyone could access. Students quickly realized they'd paid thousands to learn how to copy product photos and write generic product descriptions. The math never worked either. After advertising costs, platform fees, refunds, and the time spent dealing with angry customers, most people lost money every single month. The only ones getting rich were the course creators who kept launching new revolutionary drop shipping methods to desperate wannabe entrepreneurs. 25. Inventors dream of striking it rich with the next big idea. But what happens when smooth-talking companies promise to make those dreams come true? Enter the fake invention submission firms, businesses that prey on hopeful creators with deep pockets and bigger ambitions. These companies ran slick advertisements in magazines and newspapers. "We help you patent, you get rich," they'd shout from every page. The pitch was simple: send us your invention idea, and we'll handle the rest. Patent applications, marketing, manufacturing connections, they claimed to do it all. Well, here's where things get interesting. The upfront fees weren't small change. Inventors typically paid thousands of dollars just to get their ideas reviewed by experts. Some firms charged $10,000 or more for their complete package. The money had to come first, naturally. But what did inventors actually receive? Mostly worthless paperwork and broken promises. The so-called patent research was often copied from free government databases. Marketing efforts consisted of sending poorly written letters to random companies. Manufacturing connections? They barely existed. The Federal Trade Commission shut down several major operations over the years. American Inventors Corporation was one of the biggest. They collected millions from hopeful inventors before authorities stepped in. Another company, Davison Design, faced multiple lawsuits and investigations. Most heartbreaking were the stories of retirees who spent their life savings. They believed their garage workshop creations would finally pay off. Instead, they got fancy folders filled with generic information and a harsh lesson about get-rich-quick schemes. The real winners? Only the companies collecting those hefty fees. 26. Secret shopper voucher fraud hits people when they're looking for easy money. The scam starts with a simple offer: review stores, get paid big bucks. Sounds legitimate, right? Well, it's not. These fraudsters send victims fake checks that look completely real. The checks come with instructions to deposit the money, then immediately buy gift cards or vouchers from specific stores. Victims think they're getting paid to shop, but they're actually becoming unwitting accomplices in a money laundering scheme. The twist comes after the deposit. Banks usually make funds available quickly, even before verifying if the check is genuine. Scammers exploit this window perfectly. They pressure victims to rush out and purchase hundreds of dollars in gift cards, then send photos of the card numbers back to them. By the time the fake check bounces, which can take several days, the gift cards are already drained and converted to cash by the criminals. Then there's the personal information problem. Victims hand over social security numbers, addresses, and banking details during the hiring process. This data gets sold to other criminals or used for identity theft later. The financial damage extends far beyond the bounced check fees. Major retail chains like Target and Walmart have filed lawsuits against these operations. They lose millions when fraudulent gift cards get processed through their systems. Banks also take hits from the fake check processing. The FBI estimates Americans lose over $30 million annually to this specific scam type, with most victims being people seeking legitimate part-time work opportunities. 27. Car wrap advertising scams exploded across online classifieds around 2015, targeting anyone desperate for easy cash. The pitch sounded perfect: slap a company logo on your car, drive around normally, and collect hundreds of dollars each month. No skills required, no selling products, just let your vehicle become a rolling billboard while you went about your daily routine. Scammers would post ads claiming to represent major brands like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or local businesses looking for mobile advertising. They'd promise anywhere from $200 to $800 per month, depending on how much you drove and where you lived. The fake companies would even conduct interviews over email or phone to make everything seem legitimate. They'd ask about your driving habits, where you parked, and how many miles you logged each week. Here's where things got nasty. Once victims agreed to participate, they'd receive what looked like a legitimate payment check in the mail. The amount would be much higher than expected, maybe $2,500 instead of the promised $250. The scammers would explain this was an advance payment that included money for the car wrap installation. But here's the catch. Victims had to immediately send back the excess money to cover installation costs. They were instructed to deposit the check, keep their first month's payment, then wire or send gift cards worth the remaining balance to the installation team. Of course, the original check was completely fake. Banks would eventually catch the fraud, leaving victims responsible for the full amount while their accounts got frozen or closed for suspicious activity. 28. Social media promised to make everyone famous. Then someone figured out how to sell that dream back to us. The become an influencer course industry exploded faster than a viral TikTok dance, targeting anyone who ever dreamed of getting paid for posting selfies. These courses typically cost anywhere from $297 to $2,997. The sales pages look identical. Screenshots of bank deposits, luxury cars, and testimonials from students who went from 0 to 6 figures in 30 days. But here's the thing nobody mentions: most of these success stories are either fake or belong to people who made money selling courses, not being influencers. The actual content inside these programs. Basic information you can find free on YouTube in about 10 minutes. Upload consistently. Use hashtags. Engage with your audience. Revolutionary stuff, right? Well, apparently common sense sells for thousands when wrapped in the right packaging. What makes these scams particularly clever is they prey on two powerful emotions: the fear of missing out and the desire for easy money. Social media algorithms make it look like everyone except you is getting rich from posting pictures of their breakfast. The course sellers know this. They flood Instagram and Facebook with ads showing their lavish lifestyle, funded by teaching others to be successful online. The reality check comes when students realize building a genuine following takes years of consistent work, creativity, and often a bit of luck. Most quit within months, poorer but wiser. The course creators, meanwhile, have moved on to selling their next get-rich-quick scheme to a fresh batch of dreamers. 29. Fake loan companies prey on people when they're most desperate. Bad credit? No problem. Need cash fast? We've got you covered. These promises flood your inbox and voicemail, especially when times get tough. The scammers know exactly who to target. Here's how it works. You apply online or respond to a phone call. They tell you approval is guaranteed, regardless of your credit score. Sounds amazing, right? But first you need to pay an application fee or processing charge. Maybe it's $200, maybe $500. They say it covers administrative costs or proves you're serious about the loan. You send the money. Then crickets. No loan ever comes. The company either disappears completely or keeps asking for more fees. Oh, we need insurance costs now. Or the lender requires a security deposit. Each excuse sounds reasonable when you're desperate for cash. People end up paying thousands in fees for loans that never existed. The Federal Trade Commission reports these scams skyrocketed after 2015. Why then? The economy was still recovering, and legitimate loans were harder to get. Scammers swooped in to fill the gap. They set up professional-looking websites and phone systems that sound exactly like real banks. Real lenders never ask for upfront fees for basic loans. Ever. They make money from interest, not application charges. The scammers make their profit entirely from those fake fees. They're not even trying to lend money. They're just collecting payments from people who can least afford to lose them. Your personal information gets stolen too, leading to identity theft down the road. 30. Franchise opportunities promising six-figure profits for just $500 upfront sound too good to be true, because they absolutely are. These scammers target people desperate to escape traditional employment, dangling the dream of business ownership at bargain basement prices. The pitch usually involves vending machines, cleaning services, or mysterious internet businesses that practically run themselves. Here's how they hook victims. First, they flood classified ads and social media with testimonials from supposedly successful franchise owners. The photos show fancy cars and beach vacations, all funded by their simple business model. They claim territories are filling up fast, creating artificial urgency that pressures people into quick decisions. Once someone bites, the scammers send official-looking contracts and business plans filled with impressive revenue projections. The materials mention proven systems and ongoing support that will guarantee success. Victims wire their $500 thinking they're purchasing a legitimate business opportunity with real profit potential. The reality hits hard after payment clears. The promised franchise never materializes into an actual operating business. Instead, victims receive a box of cheaply printed promotional materials, outdated product catalogs, or access to a basic website that generates zero income. The ongoing support disappears completely, with phone numbers going straight to voicemail. Legal action eventually shuts down these operations, but the masterminds typically restart under new company names within months. They've perfected the art of collecting small amounts from hundreds of victims rather than large sums from fewer people, making prosecution more difficult while maximizing their illegal profits from desperate entrepreneurs. 31. Picture this: someone creates software that promises to make you rich just by clicking a button. Sounds too good to be true. Well, it was. The magic money-making software scams of the 2010s targeted desperate people with catchy slogans like push button, earn cash online. These weren't just harmless tricks. They were digital traps that stole everything. The software itself was complete junk. Most programs were filled with malware, designed to infect your computer the moment you downloaded them. But here's the twisted part. Victims didn't realize they were being robbed until it was too late. The malware would quietly scan for saved passwords, banking information, and personal files. Then it would send everything straight to the scammers. Teenagers were the primary targets. Scammers knew young people were tech-savvy, but often inexperienced with financial fraud. They'd place ads on gaming forums and social media, promising easy money for kids who wanted to buy the latest gadgets or help their families. The desperation made perfect victims. The real kicker: once you purchased the software, there was absolutely no way to get your money back. Customer service numbers led to deadlines, email addresses bounced back as undeliverable. The scammers would vanish completely, leaving behind thousands of infected computers and empty bank accounts. Banks started seeing patterns of unusual account activity linked to these downloads. Security experts began warning parents about the dangers, but the damage was already done. Countless families discovered their savings had been wiped out by software that promised everything and delivered nothing but financial ruin. 32. Casino players have been losing money to guaranteed winning systems for decades, but the scammers selling these magical methods make fortunes off desperate gamblers. These con artists promise foolproof roulette strategies, slot machine secrets, and blackjack formulas that supposedly beat the house every time. The pitch sounds amazing. Pay a few $100s for a system that guarantees thousands in winnings. Here's the brutal reality. Casinos wouldn't exist if these systems actually worked. The house edge is built into every game mathematically, making long-term profits impossible for players regardless of any secret strategy. Yet scammers continue selling these worthless systems to hopeful gamblers who believe they've found the golden ticket. The The sellers use fake testimonials showing massive winnings and create urgency by claiming limited availability. They target gambling forums, late-night TV ads, and desperate players already deep in debt. Some systems cost over $2,000 for what amounts to basic gambling advice you could find free online. Well, what happens when buyers try these miracle methods? They lose money faster than before. The systems often encourage bigger bets and riskier plays, leading to devastating losses. Casinos actually warn players about these scams because they've seen too many people destroy their finances chasing impossible dreams. The scammers rarely provide refunds and often disappear when complaints pile up. They simply restart under new names with identical promises. Meanwhile, their victims face bankruptcy, broken relationships, and crushing debt. The only guaranteed winner in this scheme is the person selling the worthless system, not the desperate gambler buying false hope. 33. Tax season brings out the worst scammers, and unlicensed tax preparers are among the slimiest. These fraudsters set up shop in strip malls and storefront offices, promising to double your refund or guarantee massive returns that legitimate preparers would never touch. They're basically financial con artists wearing the costume of helpful accountants. Here's their playbook. They falsify deductions, claim fake business expenses, and invent dependents that don't exist. Got a pet? Boom, suddenly it's a service animal for tax purposes. Bought groceries? Well, that's obviously a business meal now. The creativity would be impressive if it weren't so destructive. These scammers charge desperate families hefty fees, often much higher than licensed firms, to basically commit tax fraud on their behalf. But wait, there's more bad news coming. When the IRS inevitably catches these fake deductions during their review process, guess who gets investigated? Not the scammer who disappeared after April 15th. The taxpayer gets stuck holding the bag, facing audits, penalties, and demands to pay back every fraudulent cent. Meanwhile, the unlicensed preparer has vanished like smoke, probably setting up shop in another state with a new business name. The worst part, these operations specifically target low-income neighborhoods and immigrant communities, promising quick cash to people who need it most. They prey on desperation and financial illiteracy. The IRS has cracked down hard in recent years, but these scammers keep popping up like weeds. Always verify your tax preparer has proper credentials. Your financial future depends on it. 34. Email investment offers hit your inbox like digital snake oil salesmen, promising insider access to stocks guaranteed to skyrocket overnight. These scammers craft elaborate stories about secret companies about to announce breakthrough technologies or massive government contracts. The hook? You need to wire money immediately to secure your position before everyone else finds out. The testimonials look convincing at first glance. Screenshots of bank accounts showing massive gains, photos of luxury cars supposedly purchased with profits, and heartfelt letters from grateful investors who made millions. But here's the thing, every single testimonial is fabricated. Those bank account screenshots, created with basic photo editing software. The luxury cars, stock photos downloaded from the internet. What makes these scams particularly dangerous is their urgency tactics. Scammers claim the investment window closes in 24 hours, sometimes less. They'll send multiple follow-up emails, creating fake scarcity, saying only a few spots remain, or that the stock tip is about to go mainstream. Victims feel pressured to act fast without doing proper research. The websites backing these schemes change domain names monthly to stay ahead of authorities. Today's StockSecrets123.com becomes tomorrow's WealthBuilders456.com with identical content and promises. When investigators finally track down a fraudulent site, the scammers have already moved to a new web address and started targeting fresh victims. Most victims never see their money again because the wire transfers go directly to overseas accounts in countries with limited cooperation with US law enforcement. The promised stock investments never existed, and the companies were nothing more than fake business names created specifically for the scam. 35. Identity theft isn't just about someone stealing your credit card number anymore. These scammers have turned personal information into a full-blown money-making machine, and their victims get stuck holding the bill. The numbers are staggering. Mighty identity theft costs Americans millions of dollars every year, yet law enforcement only catches about 1 in 5 perpetrators. Here's how it works. Criminals get hold of your social security number, birth date and address through data breaches, stolen mail, or even dumpster diving. Then they open credit cards, take out loans, or file fake tax returns in your name. While you're going about your normal life, they're racking up debt and collecting refunds using your identity. The really twisted part, They often target people with good credit scores, because those victims can qualify for bigger loans and higher credit limits. Your excellent financial reputation becomes their ticket to easy money. Some scammers even sell identity packages to other criminals, your entire financial profile bundled up like a product. But here's where it gets worse for the victims. By the time most people discover what's happening, the damage is already done. Credit scores are destroyed, bank accounts are emptied, and the IRS might be asking questions about tax returns you never filed. The cleanup process can take years and cost thousands in legal fees. The arrest rate stays low because these crimes often cross state lines, making investigations complicated. Scammers frequently operate from different states or even different countries, using sophisticated networks to launder their stolen gains. Meanwhile, their victims are left fighting an uphill battle to reclaim their financial lives and prove their innocence to creditors and government agencies. 36. Storm season brings out the worst in people. When hurricanes, floods, or tornadoes hit, fake home repair contractors swarm affected areas like vultures circling roadkill. These scammers drive around in beat-up trucks, knocking on doors and offering urgent fixes at bargain prices. They prey on desperate homeowners who just watched their roofs get ripped off or their basements flood. The pitch sounds reasonable at first. "Ma'am, I was just working down the street and noticed your gutters are hanging loose. Dangerous stuff. I can fix that today for half what those big companies charge." They always demand payment up front, claiming they need to buy materials. Cash only, of course. No checks, no credit cards, no paper trail. Here's where it gets ugly. These fraudsters take the money and either disappear immediately or do such shoddy work that homeowners end up worse than before. We're talking about using duct tape instead of proper roofing materials, or slapping cheap paint over water damage without addressing the underlying problems. Some don't even bother showing up after collecting the deposit. The timing makes this scam particularly cruel. People are already stressed, dealing with insurance companies and trying to salvage their belongings. Along comes someone offering hope and quick solutions. Victims often hand over thousands of dollars they can't afford to lose. Local authorities crack down hard when they catch these operations. But enforcement proves difficult when scammers move constantly between disaster zones, always staying one step ahead of the law. 37. Sports betting experts have flooded the internet with promises that sound too good to be true. They claim their tips are guaranteed to win every single week, charging desperate gamblers hundreds or even thousands of dollars for monthly access to their insider knowledge. The reality: these so-called professionals have no special connection to teams, players, or outcomes that regular fans don't already know. Most of these tipsters can't even show you a legitimate track record of past wins. They'll throw around impressive-sounding percentages like 87% win rate over 6 months, but when pressed for proof, they either dodge the question or provide fake screenshots that anyone could create in 5 minutes. The math alone should raise red flags. If someone really could predict sports outcomes with that level of accuracy, they'd be betting their own money and making millions, not selling tips to strangers online. What makes this scam particularly cruel is how it targets people who are already struggling with gambling problems. Victims often start by betting small amounts based on these expert picks, but when they inevitably lose, the tipsters convince them to double down with bigger bets to recover their losses. Before long, people are draining their savings accounts, borrowing money and destroying their financial lives chasing wins that never come. The most successful of these fraudsters get banned from major sports betting websites once their patterns become obvious. But that doesn't stop them. They simply create new accounts, new websites, and new fake identities to continue the same scam with fresh victims who haven't learned their lesson yet. 38. Wealth manifestation courses promise you can think your way to riches. Just visualize money flowing into your bank account, and boom, financial freedom awaits. The promoters charge hundreds for seminars where they teach the secret that banks don't want you to know. Spoiler alert: positive thinking alone won't pay your mortgage. These courses exploded in popularity during late-night TV infomercials. Charismatic speakers would stand on stage, telling audiences they could manifest millions by changing their mindset. The audience would cheer, wallets would open, and reality would hit later when rent was still due. But the gurus made real money, from selling hope to desperate people. The typical pitch sounds appealing. Align your vibrations with abundance, they'll say with a straight face. No budgeting required, no business plan needed. Just think rich thoughts and watch wealth appear magically. Well, magic isn't how economics works, unfortunately. Customers who bought these expensive courses complained bitterly about getting no results. Shocking, right? Turns out visualization doesn't replace actual financial planning, hard work, or marketable skills. The only people getting rich were the course creators themselves, who understood real business principles while selling fantasy to others. These scams flood television during late-night hours, targeting insomniacs and shift workers desperate for change. The Federal Trade Commission receives thousands of complaints annually about wealth manifestation programs. Many victims report spending their last few $100s on courses that delivered nothing but motivational fluff. The irony stings. People seeking financial stability ended up broker than before, while the gurus counted their very real profits from selling completely imaginary shortcuts to success. 39. High-yield investment programs promised returns that would make your head spin. We're talking 30% profits in just weeks. Sounds impossible. That's because it was. These schemes popped up everywhere in online forums during the 2000s, targeting people who thought they'd discovered the secret to easy money. The pitch was always the same. Mysterious offshore accounts managed by financial geniuses who somehow cracked the code to guaranteed profits. They'd throw around fancy terms like arbitrage trading and forex algorithms to make it sound legitimate. But here's the thing, they never explained how any of it actually worked. Victims would wire their life savings to these operations, expecting weekly payouts that seemed too good to be true. Well, guess what? They were. The early investors might see a payment or two, just enough to build credibility and attract more suckers. Classic Ponzi scheme territory. Then there's the offshore angle that made everything even sketchier. Money disappeared into foreign bank accounts faster than you could say wire transfer. When people started asking questions, the websites vanished overnight. Customer service, gone. Your money, also gone. The forums where these programs advertised became graveyards of angry posts from burned investors. People shared stories of losing tens of thousands, sometimes their entire retirement funds. The promise of financial freedom turned into financial ruin. Law enforcement struggled to track down operators who bounced between countries like ping-pong balls. Most victims never saw a penny of their money again, learning the hard way that legitimate investments don't promise miracle returns. 40. Snake oil salesmen have been around longer than McDonald's has been flipping burgers. These smooth-talking con artists roll into town with bottles of mysterious liquid, promising to cure everything from baldness to broken hearts. The pitch is always the same. One magical potion that somehow fixes dozens of completely unrelated health problems. Back in the day, these scammers traveled from town to town in wagons, setting up shop at county fairs and busy street corners. They'd gather crowds with loud speeches about their miracle discoveries from exotic locations. The bottles contained nothing more than colored water, cheap alcohol, or worse, near dangerous chemicals that could actually harm people. But the showmanship sold the lie. What makes this scam particularly cruel is how it targets desperate people. Someone dealing with chronic pain or a scary diagnosis becomes an easy mark. The scammer feeds on hope, promising relief that real doctors couldn't provide. Victims pay cash on the spot because they're told the limited supply won't last long. Even today, variations of snake oil scams pop up at state fairs and flea markets across America. The bottles might look fancier, and the claims might sound more scientific, but it's the same old trick. Modern versions often claim to boost energy, burn fat instantly, or reverse aging overnight. The Federal Trade Commission regularly shuts down these operations, but new ones keep appearing. The only thing these products cure reliably is the seller's empty wallet, by filling it with money from trusting customers who desperately want to believe in miracles. 41. Exotic animals were supposedly the ticket to easy money back in the day. Scammers would approach people with wild promises about breeding rare creatures for massive profits. Want to make 50 grand a year raising chinchillas in your garage? They had a plan. Thinking about retiring early with a basement full of ostriches? Sign right here. The pitch always sounded legitimate enough. These weren't your typical goldfish or hamsters. We're talking about emus, llamas, exotic birds, or even more unusual creatures like hedgehogs and sugar gliders. The promoters would show up with glossy brochures featuring pictures of adorable animals alongside charts showing incredible profit margins. They'd claim that demand was through the roof, and that buyers were practically lining up to purchase these animals. Here's where things got messy fast. Most of these animals required special permits that nobody mentioned up front. Turns out you can't just decide to breed exotic birds in your backyard without jumping through serious legal hoops. Many of the animals were actually illegal to own or sell in certain states. The victims would spend thousands on setup costs, food, and the initial animals, only to discover they were breaking the law. Then there's the reality check about animal care. These weren't low-maintenance pets. Exotic animals need specialized veterinary care, specific diets, and proper housing that costs way more than anyone budgeted for. Many animals would get sick or die, leaving people with nothing but vet bills and empty cages. The promised buyers, they never existed. The promoters would vanish as soon as they collected their fees, leaving families stuck with animals they couldn't legally keep or sell. 42. Parents watching talent shows probably think their kids could be the next big star. Well, scammers know this too. Fake talent agencies prey on these dreams harder than a stage mom at an audition. They promise your child will be in TV commercials, movies and magazine ads. All you need to do is pay for professional headshots first. The pitch sounds legit. They claim to have connections with major studios and casting directors. Some even name-drop famous actors who supposedly got their start through their agency. The websites look professional with glossy photos of happy families and testimonials from successful clients. But here's the kicker. None of those testimonials are real. These agencies make their money from photography sessions, not from placing talent. They charge anywhere from $500 to $3,000 for a professional portfolio. The photos are usually mediocre at best, taken in a strip mall studio with cheap lighting. After the expensive photo shoot, families rarely hear back about any actual job opportunities. The worst part, some agencies keep pushing additional services. They'll say your child needs acting classes, special coaching, or updated headshots to land that big break. The bills keep piling up while the promised auditions never materialize. Meanwhile, the agency owners are getting rich off desperate parents' hopes and dreams. Real talent agencies make money when their clients work. They take a percentage of earnings, not upfront fees. If an agency demands payment before they've gotten your kid any jobs, that's your red flag right there. Those childhood dreams are expensive enough without paying scammers to crush them. 43. Phony job placement firms know exactly how to hit desperate job seekers where it hurts most. They promise guaranteed employment immediately, usually targeting recent college graduates drowning in student loans and anxiety about their future. The pitch sounds too good to be true, because it absolutely is. These scammers set up professional-looking websites with testimonials from successful clients who landed six-figure jobs within weeks. They claim to have exclusive relationships with major corporations and insider knowledge of hidden job openings. The hook? You just need to pay a small processing fee or resume optimization charge to access their premium employer network. Recent graduates already stressed about finding work often fall for this trap. They pay anywhere from $200 to $2,000 upfront, believing they're investing in their career future. The scammers collect payment and then provide either nothing or a list of publicly available job postings anyone could find on regular job boards. When victims call asking about their guaranteed positions, they get excuses. The hiring manager is out of town, they're reviewing applications internally. Just be patient, these things take time. Eventually the phone numbers disconnect and the websites disappear. The cruel irony, real job placement agencies never charge job seekers upfront fees. Legitimate recruiters get paid by employers when they successfully place candidates. Any firm demanding money from job seekers is running a scam, plain and simple. These operations particularly spike during economic downturns when unemployment rises and people become more desperate for work opportunities. 44. Debt relief companies flood late-night TV with promises that sound too good to be true. Erase your debt completely, they shout. Start fresh tomorrow. What they don't mention: the massive upfront fees and the fact that your credit score might actually get worse. These unlicensed specialists prey on people drowning in bills. They charge anywhere from $500 to $5,000 before doing any work. The pitch is simple: pay us now, and we'll negotiate with your creditors to make your debt vanish. Sounds magical, doesn't it? Here's what really happens. Most of these companies do absolutely nothing after collecting your money. They might send a few generic letters to credit card companies, but there's no real negotiation taking place. Meanwhile, you're still getting calls from collectors because nothing has actually been resolved. The worst part, your credit score often plummets even further. When you stop paying creditors to save money for these companies, late payments pile up. Your debt grows with interest and penalties, while you wait for the miracle that never comes. Licensed credit counselors, by contrast, typically charge small monthly fees and actually work with creditors. They're required to be transparent about their success rates and limitations. But the unlicensed guys, they vanish when complaints start rolling in. Many of these firms get shut down by state attorneys general, only to reopen under new names in different states. It's a game of financial whack-a-mole that leaves victims worse off than when they started. The debt remains, but now they're out thousands more. 45. Online auction fraud became the Wild West of internet scams during the early days of eBay and other platforms. Scammers would post fake listings for hot electronics like PlayStation consoles, laptops, or digital cameras at prices that seemed too good to pass up. The trick was simple: demand immediate payment through wire transfer or money order, then vanish into thin air. These fraudsters knew exactly how to game the system. They'd create multiple fake accounts with stolen photos and bogus feedback scores. Well, the photos weren't even of the actual products half the time. Some sellers posted stock images they grabbed from manufacturer websites. Others literally photographed empty boxes or completely different items. The payment methods were the biggest red flag, but desperate bargain hunters ignored every warning sign. Wire transfers meant no protection whatsoever. Money orders, good luck getting that cash back once it's gone. PayPal existed, but these scammers avoided it like the plague because buyers could dispute charges. Then there were the bait-and-switch artists who actually shipped something. Victims expected a brand new laptop, but received a broken calculator instead, or they'd get an empty box filled with newspapers. Makes sense, right? The tracking number showed delivered, so technically the seller held up their end of the deal. The worst part was how these operations ran for years before getting shut down. By the time victims realized they'd been scammed, the seller's account was already deleted, and they'd moved on to new identities. Law enforcement struggled to keep up because these criminals operated across state lines, making prosecution nearly impossible. 46. Travel clubs promising luxury vacations at bargain prices have been trapping Americans for decades. These operations sound legitimate on paper. Members pay hefty upfront fees, sometimes thousands of dollars, for lifetime access to exclusive resort deals. The pitch always sounds too good to pass up. What makes these scams particularly clever is their timing. Most launch during economic downturns when families desperately want affordable getaways. The salespeople use high-pressure tactics, claiming limited-time offers that expire within hours. They show glossy brochures featuring 5-star resorts and promise savings up to 80% off regular rates. Here's where things get ugly fast. Members who try booking their promised vacations discover hidden fees everywhere. The free hotel nights come with mandatory resort charges, cleaning fees, and booking surcharges that often exceed normal vacation costs. Available dates are severely restricted, usually limited to the worst weather seasons or completely booked months in advance. Even worse, many clubs simply vanish after collecting membership fees. The fancy offices close overnight, phone numbers disconnect, and websites disappear. Members realize they've been had only when they try planning that dream vacation they already paid for. The Federal Trade Commission has shut down dozens of these operations since 2005, but new ones keep popping up. They often target retirees and middle-class families through telemarketing calls and hotel presentation seminars. The legal actions have recovered millions for victims, but many people never see their money again. These clubs prey on our natural desire for affordable luxury, making the disappointment even more painful. 47. Natural disasters bring out both the best and worst in people. While legitimate relief organizations rush to help victims, scammers see dollar signs. These fake charity operations pop up faster than emergency shelters after hurricanes, wildfires, and floods hit communities across America. The setup is brutally simple. Within hours of a disaster making headlines, fraudsters register websites with names that sound almost identical to real charities. They'll use names like American Red Relief instead of American Red Cross or Disaster Aid Foundation to confuse donors. The websites look professional, complete with stock photos of devastated areas and emotional appeals for immediate help. What makes this scam particularly cruel is the timing. People want to help when they see suffering on the news. Their generosity becomes a weapon against them. Scammers know that emotional donors don't always verify charity credentials before giving money. These operations work fast and disappear faster. They'll collect donations for weeks, then vanish once media attention shifts to other stories. The fraudsters pocket every dollar while real victims get nothing. Phone calls represent another angle. Scammers will cold call people claiming to collect disaster relief funds. They pressure donors to give credit card information immediately, saying every minute counts for the victims. After major disasters like Hurricane Katrina, the 2018 California wildfires, and recent tornadoes, investigators found dozens of fake relief operations. The Federal Trade Commission now maintains lists of verified charities to help donors avoid these heartless scams that profit from human suffering. 48. Real estate fraud hits differently when you're about to close on your dream home. You've saved for years, found the perfect place, and suddenly you get an email from your title company with updated wire instructions. The criminals behind escrow wire fraud know exactly when to strike, right when buyers are most vulnerable and eager to complete their purchase. Here's how the scam works. Fraudsters hack into email accounts of real estate agents, title companies, or mortgage brokers. They watch the conversations like hawks, learning all the details about upcoming closings. Then, just days before the wire transfer is supposed to happen, they send official-looking emails with urgent updates to the wiring instructions. The fake domains look almost identical to the real ones, maybe firstnationaltitle.com instead of firstnationaltitle.net. Most people don't notice the difference when they're stressed about closing deadlines. The timing is everything. These criminals know that buyers are in a rush, banks are pressuring them to move fast, and everyone assumes the email is legitimate because it has all the correct property details and closing information. Within hours of sending the wire, the money vanishes into offshore accounts that are nearly impossible to trace. What makes this particularly cruel is that victims lose their entire down payment instantly. We're talking about life savings here, often $50,000, $100,000, or more disappearing in a single transaction. Law enforcement faces major challenges, tracking these international wire transfers, and recovery rates are depressingly low. The home buying booms of recent years have only made these scams more profitable for criminals. 49. College scholarships should help students achieve their dreams, not drain their bank accounts. But countless families fall victim to scholarship scams every single year, losing thousands of dollars they desperately need for actual education expenses. These fraudsters prey on the anxiety parents feel about skyrocketing tuition costs and the desperation students experience when facing massive debt. The scam follows a predictable pattern that works disturbingly well. Companies with official-sounding names like National Scholarship Foundation or Academic Grant Services contact families through mail, phone calls, or online ads. They promise guaranteed scholarship money, sometimes claiming students will receive thousands of dollars with minimal effort. The catch: families must pay hefty processing fees, application fees, or administrative costs up front, typically ranging from $200 to $2,000. What makes these scams particularly cruel is the timing. Scammers often target families during peak college application season, when stress levels are highest and decision-making can be impaired. They use high-pressure tactics, claiming scholarships are first come, first served, or that the deadline is tomorrow. After payment, victims receive worthless packets containing publicly available scholarship information they could have found free online. Many discover the scholarships listed are expired, have impossible eligibility requirements, or simply don't exist. The promised personalized assistance never materializes, and customer service numbers go straight to voicemail or disconnect entirely. Real scholarships never require upfront fees. Legitimate scholarship databases and counseling services are available through schools, libraries, and government websites at no cost to families. 50. Charles Ponzi didn't invent financial fraud, but he sure perfected it. This Italian immigrant arrived in Boston with big dreams and even bigger promises. His scheme was brilliantly simple: convince people to give him money, promise incredible returns, then use new investors' cash to pay off the old ones. Classic pyramid thinking, but with a twist that made him millions. The year was 1920, and Ponzi claimed he could double your investment in just 45 days. 50% profit. People lined up around the block to hand over their life savings. He told investors he was buying postal reply coupons in Europe and selling them in America for huge profits. Sounds boring, right? Well, that boring story made him incredibly wealthy while his investors got wiped out. Here's the crazy part: Ponzi wasn't actually trading postal coupons at all. The whole international arbitrage thing was complete nonsense. He was just moving money from Peter to pay Paul, keeping a hefty chunk for himself along the way. The scheme attracted millions of dollars in just 8 months, which equals about $314 million in today's money. When everything collapsed, thousands of families lost everything. Ponzi himself went to prison, but his name lived on forever. Now, whenever someone runs this type of scam, we call it a Ponzi scheme. Pretty wild how one guy's lies became the textbook definition of financial fraud. His legacy isn't wealth or success. It's becoming synonymous with one of the most devastating cons in American history. 51. Online dating seemed like a goldmine for scammers looking for easy targets. The romance scam became one of the most profitable cons on the internet, especially after dating apps exploded in popularity. These criminals weren't looking for love, they were hunting for lonely hearts with deep pockets. The setup was disturbingly simple. Scammers created fake profiles using stolen photos of attractive people, often models or soldiers. They'd craft sob stories about being deployed overseas, working on oil rigs, or caring for sick relatives. The goal: build trust, then ask for money. What made these scams so effective was the emotional manipulation involved. Victims typically fell into predictable patterns. First came the whirlwind romance, constant messages, declarations of love, promises of meeting soon. Then the emergency would hit. The fake boyfriend needed money for a plane ticket home, medical bills for a dying parent, or fees to access inheritance funds. The requests started small but escalated quickly. Dating sites reported that seniors were hit hardest by these schemes. Many lost their life savings, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, sending wire transfers to people they'd never met. The psychological damage often proved worse than the financial losses. Victims felt embarrassed, heartbroken, and reluctant to report the crimes. Law enforcement struggled to catch these criminals, because most operated from foreign countries, using untraceable communication methods. Even when victims realized they'd been scammed, recovering their money was nearly impossible. The romance scam industry generated billions in annual losses, making it one of the most successful criminal enterprises in the digital age. 52. Medical billing fraud might sound boring until you realize criminals are literally printing money using your insurance information. They submit fake claims for treatments you never received, surgeries you never had, and equipment you never used. The best part, you don't even know it's happening until someone catches them. These scammers set up fake medical offices or infiltrate real ones. They get hold of patient information through data breaches, corrupt employees, or even dumpster diving for discarded records. Then they start billing insurance companies for expensive procedures. A fake back surgery here, some imaginary cancer treatments there. Insurance companies pay out millions before anyone notices the pattern. But here's where it gets really twisted. Sometimes patients do show up on the paperwork, but the treatments are completely made up. You might get a bill for a heart transplant you definitely would have remembered, or your insurance might show claims for a wheelchair you never ordered, delivered to an address you've never lived at. The government finally got serious about this mess. Medicare launched task forces specifically to hunt down these billing scams. They use computer algorithms to spot suspicious patterns, like a doctor who apparently performs 50 surgeries a day, or a clinic that orders 10,000 wheelchairs in a month. When they catch these fraudsters, the penalties are harsh. Some face decades in prison. The crazy part is how much money disappears. We're talking billions of dollars nationwide every year. That money could have gone to actual medical care for people who really need it. Instead, it lines the pockets of criminals who prey on our healthcare system. 53. Phone calls promising amazing jobs have become one of the most dangerous scams targeting Americans today. These fraudsters don't just steal your money, they grab your entire identity and leave you financially destroyed. The callers sound professional, often claiming to represent major companies or government agencies. They've done their homework too, sometimes knowing your name, address, and even details about your work history. Here's how the trap works perfectly. The employer offers you a dream position with incredible pay and benefits, but there's always a catch. They need to verify your identity first. Out comes the request for your social security number, bank account details, and sometimes even your mother's maiden name. Smart people who would never give this information to a stranger somehow feel comfortable sharing it with their new boss. The scammers have gotten incredibly sophisticated since the COVID pandemic started. They create fake company websites, use official-sounding titles, and even conduct phone interviews that feel completely legitimate. Some victims report receiving actual employment contracts and company handbooks before the fraud becomes obvious. Then there's the financial devastation that follows. Victims discover unauthorized credit cards, drained bank accounts, and loans taken out in their names. The job disappears completely once the scammers have what they need. Recovery can take years and thousands of dollars in legal fees. What makes this scam particularly cruel is how it targets people who are already struggling. Unemployed workers desperately seeking income become the easiest marks for these professional thieves. 54. Most concert fans know the frustration of trying to buy tickets online, only to find their favorite artist is sold out within minutes. That's exactly when fake ticket scammers swoop in with their too good to be true offers. These fraudsters create convincing websites and social media ads, promising premium seats to the hottest shows in town. The setup looks professional enough to fool anyone. They'll use stolen photos from real venues, copy legitimate ticket layouts, and even create fake customer reviews praising their amazing service. Payment methods seem normal too. Credit cards, PayPal, even cash apps that younger buyers prefer. The prices just low enough to seem like a great deal, but not so cheap that alarm bells go off immediately. Here's where things get interesting though. The scammers often target the most desperate fans, parents trying to surprise their kids, couples planning anniversary dates, or groups of friends who've been waiting months for tickets. They know exactly when to strike too, usually right after legitimate sites crash from high demand or announce sold-out shows. Then comes the crushing moment of truth. Victims arrive at the venue only to discover their tickets are either completely fake, already used by someone else, or never existed at all. Security guards have seen it countless times, disappointed fans holding worthless pieces of paper or showing screenshots that mean absolutely nothing. Major artists now regularly warn their followers about these scams during tours, and law enforcement estimates millions are lost each year. The fraudsters, they simply shut down their websites and start fresh with new domain names. 55. Kids knocking on doors asking for donations have been around forever, but not all of them represent real causes. These scammers show up at your front door with laminated badges, clipboards, and rehearsed sob stories about helping local sports teams or disaster victims. They look official enough to fool most people. The classic trick involves young adults or teenagers claiming they're raising money for a youth basketball league or helping families affected by recent floods. They'll have fake identification cards and sometimes even wear matching t-shirts to seem legitimate. What makes this scam particularly effective? People feel uncomfortable saying no to kids asking for help. Here's where it gets sneaky. The fundraisers often change their story between visits to the same neighborhood. On Monday they're collecting for hurricane relief. By Wednesday it's suddenly for a children's hospital. Smart homeowners who pay attention notice these inconsistencies, but most people don't. Police departments across the country warn residents about these door-to-door donation scams, especially during holiday seasons when people feel more generous. The scammers know this timing works in their favor. They'll hit suburban neighborhoods systematically, moving from house to house until someone calls authorities. Real charitable organizations rarely send people door to door without advance notice or proper documentation. Legitimate groups usually work through established community partnerships or hold organized events. When in doubt, ask for official paperwork and contact information you can verify later. Most scammers will make excuses and move on to easier targets rather than provide real documentation. 56. Apartment hunting can be stressful enough without worrying about losing your deposit to a complete stranger. But that's exactly what happened to thousands of renters who fell for fake rental property listings online. These scams exploded across platforms like Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, leaving victims out hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Here's how it works. Scammers steal photos from legitimate rental listings and repost them at attractive prices. They create fake email accounts and phone numbers to communicate with potential renters. When someone shows interest, the landlord explains they're out of town but desperately need to fill the vacancy quickly. The urgency factor kicks in hard. They'll claim multiple people are interested and demand a deposit immediately to hold the property. Some even send fake lease agreements that look professional. The catch? They ask for money transfers, gift cards, or other untraceable payment methods. Red flags pop up everywhere if you know what to look for. Real landlords rarely refuse in-person meetings or property tours. They don't typically ask for Western Union transfers or iTunes gift cards as security deposits. And they certainly don't have Gmail addresses when claiming to represent major property management companies. The cruel twist. Many victims discover the scam only after showing up to move in and finding out the real owner knows nothing about any rental agreement. By then, the fake landlord has vanished completely. Recovery becomes nearly impossible since these criminals often operate from different states or countries, making prosecution extremely difficult for local law enforcement agencies. 57. Foreign currency trading sounds sophisticated, doesn't it? The forex market moves trillions of dollars daily, and scammers know exactly how to exploit people's dreams of tapping into that massive flow of cash. They promise secret trading systems that supposedly guarantee profits from currency fluctuations between dollars, euros, yen, and other major currencies. These schemes typically start with expensive seminars held in fancy hotel ballrooms. Speakers wear expensive suits and flash screenshots of their supposed trading accounts showing enormous gains. They'll claim their special software or insider knowledge can predict when currencies will rise or fall. The pitch always includes testimonials from successful students who allegedly quit their day jobs after mastering the system. But here's the thing about Forex trading. Even professional traders with decades of experience lose money regularly. The market moves based on complex economic factors, political events, and pure unpredictability that no software can consistently forecast. Most retail Forex traders lose their entire investment within months. The gurus selling these systems make their real money from course sales, not trading. They charge thousands for seminars, then upsell expensive software packages and ongoing coaching programs. When students inevitably lose money following their methods, the instructors blame lack of discipline or not following the system exactly. What makes this particularly cruel is how they target people facing financial stress. Single parents, retirees on fixed incomes, and workers worried about job security become convinced that currency trading will solve their money problems. Instead, they drain savings accounts chasing a fantasy that enriches only the people selling the dream. 58. Cryptocurrency promised to revolutionize money. Instead, it gave birth to thousands of completely worthless digital coins that exist only to separate naive investors from their hard-earned cash. These aren't legitimate cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum. They're elaborate digital con games wrapped in tech jargon and false promises. The scam starts simple enough. Someone creates a new cryptocurrency with a flashy name like Mooncoin or Diamond Token. They build a basic website filled with buzzwords about revolutionary blockchain technology and the future of finance. The whole operation costs maybe a few $1,000s to set up. Then comes the sales pitch. Promoters flood social media with posts about how early investors will become millionaires. They create fake testimonials from supposed users who claim they bought the coin for pennies and now own Lamborghinis. The pressure tactics are relentless. Limited time offer, and only 1,000 coins left at this price. Sound familiar? Here's the brutal truth. Most of these coins never get listed on any real cryptocurrency exchange. The creators pocket the money and vanish, leaving investors holding digital assets worth absolutely nothing. Even if the coin does appear on some obscure trading platform, there's usually no real market for it. Young investors get hit hardest by these scams. They see legitimate crypto success stories and think they've found the next big thing. Instead, they discover that their revolutionary investment can't even be sold. The websites disappear overnight, customer support goes silent, and their digital wallets become monuments to financial naivety. Well, at least they learned an expensive lesson about doing research first. 59. Religious scammers found a new way to prey on desperate families. They set up websites offering prayer services for cash payments. Sounds ridiculous. Well, thousands of people fell for it. These operations worked like spiritual vending machines. Families facing medical emergencies, job losses, or relationship problems would find these sites through desperate Google searches. The websites looked legitimate, complete with stock photos of peaceful churches and testimonials from satisfied customers who claimed their prayers were answered within days. The scammers charged anywhere from $19.99 for a basic prayer package to $299 for intensive spiritual intervention. They promised specific results: lost your job, pay $50 and they'd pray for employment within 2 weeks, sick relative, fork over $100 for healing prayers delivered by certified prayer warriors. Here's the kicker: there were no prayer warriors, no prayers happened at all. Once victims paid through credit cards or PayPal, they received generic email confirmations thanking them for their prayer request submission. Some sites sent follow-up emails asking how their divine intervention was working, usually with links to purchase additional prayer packages. The targeting was particularly cruel. These scammers monitored obituaries, hospital patient directories, and unemployment forums to send personalized emails to vulnerable families. "We saw your loved one needs prayers," the emails would begin, then offer discounted rates for emergency spiritual assistance. When major news outlets exposed these operations in the mid-2000s, prosecutors discovered some prayer scam networks had collected millions of dollars. The largest operation involved fake monasteries across 3 states, with monks who were actually telemarketers working from strip mall offices. 60. The art world has always been a playground for scammers, but fake antique auctions take deception to museum-quality levels. These operations don't just sell bad art. They create entire fictional histories around mass-produced junk. One notorious ring in the early 2000s convinced buyers they were purchasing lost masterpieces from European estates. The reality: every single piece came from a warehouse in Ohio where workers cranked out ancient sculptures using modern tools and aging techniques that would make Hollywood prop departments jealous. What makes these scams particularly cruel is how they exploit people's dreams of discovering hidden treasure. The fraudsters study real auction catalogs, copying descriptions and even stealing photographs from legitimate sales. They'll tell you that mysterious painting is a recently discovered work by a famous artist's lesser-known brother. Suddenly, that $500 investment looks like the deal of the century. The websites look professional, complete with fake testimonials from art historians who don't exist and provenance documents that wouldn't fool a high school art teacher. International buyers get hit the hardest because they can't physically inspect items before purchase. By the time they realize their Renaissance sculpture was made last Tuesday, the scammers have vanished. The fake auction sites disappear overnight, leaving behind only disappointed collectors and worthless certificates of authenticity. Art experts can usually spot these fakes within minutes, but victims rarely consult professionals before buying. Once the money transfers internationally, getting refunds becomes nearly impossible. Most people just end up with expensive paperweights and expensive lessons about trusting online auctions. 61. People working boring jobs have always dreamed of making money from home. Back in the late 1990s and early 2000s, late-night TV commercials promised exactly that with work-from-home assembly kits. The pitch was simple. Companies would pay you thousands of dollars to assemble simple products like jewelry, crafts, or small electronics right from your kitchen table. No experience required, no boss breathing down your neck. Just you, some basic materials, and easy money rolling in. The scammers behind these schemes knew exactly what buttons to push. They targeted stay-at-home parents, retirees, and anyone struggling to make ends meet. The ads showed smiling families counting stacks of cash while assembling what looked like simple trinkets. Earn $3,000 per month in your spare time, the commercials screamed. All you had to do was send $39.95 for your starter kit. Here's where things got nasty. The kits that arrived were filled with cheap, worthless materials that no real company would ever want. Broken beads, flimsy wire, plastic pieces that didn't fit together properly. The instruction manuals were poorly written and made no sense. But the real kicker: the companies claimed they would only pay you if you could sell the finished products back to them or find your own customers. Of course, nobody wanted to buy the junk you assembled. The scammers had no intention of purchasing anything from victims. They made their money selling those useless $40 kits to desperate people hoping for a better life. Thousands of families wasted weeks trying to make these schemes work, only to realize they'd been completely ripped off. 62. These firms operated like legal vultures, circling desperate people who needed money fast. They'd send official-looking letters claiming you were entitled to compensation from class action lawsuits you'd never heard of. The catch: you had to pay substantial legal processing fees up front before they'd file your claim. The scammers targeted anyone facing financial hardship, medical bills piling up, perfect victim, lost your job recently, even better. They'd promise payouts ranging from thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars from settlements involving everything from defective products to workplace discrimination. Makes sense that people would bite, right? But here's where it gets really twisted. These weren't even real law firms half the time. They'd create impressive websites with stock photos of actors in suits, fake testimonials, and bogus case histories. Some operated from dingy strip mall offices with a single phone line and a fax machine from 1995. The legal fees they demanded were outrageous. Victims paid anywhere from $500 to $5,000 for absolutely nothing. No lawsuits existed. No settlements were waiting. The scammers would collect the money, send a few official-looking documents, then vanish completely when victims started asking questions. State bar associations became flooded with complaints. Turns out, most of these operations weren't licensed to practice law anywhere. The few legitimate attorneys involved usually had their licenses suspended or revoked within months of being exposed. Well, that's what happens when you prey on people's desperation for quick cash. The victims were left broke and still facing their original financial problems. 63. Television executives probably never imagined their talent competition would spawn an entire industry of fake auditions designed to rob aspiring stars. But that's exactly what happened when American Idol became a cultural phenomenon in the early 2000s. Suddenly, everyone with a decent voice thought they had a shot at fame and fortune, and where there are desperate dreamers, scammers inevitably follow. These fraudsters set up elaborate schemes that looked legitimate on the surface. They'd rent hotel conference rooms, create professional-looking websites, and even hire actors to pose as talent scouts. The pitch was always the same: pay an entry fee for exclusive auditions that would guarantee face time with real producers. Some charged $200, others demanded $500 or more for premium packages that included headshots and demo recordings. The cruel reality: no actual connections to the show existed whatsoever. The so-called auditions were either completely fake or led nowhere. Victims would perform their hearts out for strangers who had zero influence in the entertainment industry. Meanwhile, the scammers collected thousands of dollars from hopeful singers and dancers across the country. What made these cons particularly heartbreaking was their target demographic. Young people, often teenagers, would convince their parents to spend family savings on what seemed like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The scammers knew exactly how to exploit that desperation, promising recording contracts and instant stardom. Eventually, television networks started issuing public warnings about unauthorized auditions. They emphasized that legitimate tryouts were always free and announced through official channels. Still, the damage was done to countless families who'd already fallen for the scam. 64. ATM skimmers look innocent enough. These tiny devices slip right over the card slot at your favorite cash machine. But underneath that harmless exterior lies a sophisticated theft operation that can drain your bank account faster than you can say insufficient funds. The beauty of this scam from a criminal's perspective is its simplicity. Scammers attach a fake card reader over the real one. When you slide your card through, it captures all your information. Meanwhile, a hidden camera records you typing your PIN. Some criminals get fancy and install fake keypads that feel exactly like the real thing. Here's where it gets interesting. The thieves don't need to stick around. They can collect their equipment later and walk away with hundreds of credit and debit card numbers. Your information gets sold on the dark web or used to create counterfeit cards within hours. Banks lose millions replacing stolen funds, but they've gotten smarter. Modern ATMs include better security features. Card readers wiggle when tampered with. Some machines use different colored components so fakes stand out. Banks also monitor for unusual withdrawal patterns. The criminals have adapted too. They target busy locations where people won't notice anything suspicious. Gas stations, tourist areas, and college campuses remain popular spots. Some operations run for weeks before anyone discovers them. Financial institutions now reimburse most victims quickly. However, the hassle of cancelled cards and frozen accounts can last weeks. The simple act of checking for loose parts before using any ATM has saved countless people from this headache. 65. Multi-level marketing companies selling miracle health products represent one of the most dangerous financial scams targeting desperate people. These schemes don't just steal money, they prey on families dealing with serious illnesses, promising cures that don't exist. The sellers recruit victims by claiming their supplements can treat everything from cancer to diabetes. Obviously, none of these products work. The recruitment pitch sounds appealing at first. Join the team, sell these amazing health products, and make money while helping people get better. New recruits pay hundreds or thousands for starter kits filled with unmarked bottles and fancy brochures. The real money supposedly comes from building your downline, recruiting more sellers beneath you. But here's where it gets truly twisted. These MLM health companies specifically target support groups, online forums, and social media communities where sick people gather. Desperate parents with autistic children get pitched expensive detox supplements. Cancer patients receive messages about miracle powders that supposedly shrink tumors overnight. The products themselves often contain nothing more than cheap vitamins or herbal extracts. Some include dangerous ingredients that can actually worsen medical conditions. When the FDA investigates, they consistently find zero scientific evidence supporting any health claims. Meanwhile, the 99% of sellers who never make money face a double loss. They've wasted their savings on worthless inventory and potentially damaged their health with unregulated substances. The few people at the top of these pyramids walk away rich, while leaving behind a trail of broken families who trusted them with both their money and their hope for healing. 66. Phone calls claiming your social security account needs immediate attention have fooled thousands of Americans since 2017. The scammer uses official-sounding language and creates fake urgency. Your account will be suspended in 24 hours unless you verify your information, they warn. But here's what they don't want you to know. The Social Security Administration never makes these calls. The con artists have gotten sophisticated with their approach. They spoof phone numbers to make calls appear official. Some even know partial information about their targets, like names or addresses, which makes the scam feel legitimate. Well, that personal data often comes from previous data breaches or public records. Elderly victims are the primary target because they depend heavily on Social Security payments. The fear of losing monthly income creates panic. Scammers exploit this vulnerability by demanding immediate payment of bogus fees or threatening arrest. Makes sense from their twisted perspective, right? The financial damage extends beyond stolen money. Victims often hand over Social Security numbers, birth dates, and bank account details. This information fuels identity theft that can last for years. Credit scores plummet, tax refunds get stolen, new accounts open in victims' names without their knowledge. Government agencies have responded with enforcement actions against phone spam operations. The Federal Trade Commission has issued millions in fines. Phone companies now block suspicious numbers automatically. And the weird part is, despite all these warnings and protections, people still fall for these calls daily. The scammers simply change tactics, use new numbers, and find fresh victims who haven't heard the warnings yet. 67. Get-rich-quick cryptocurrency trading rooms exploded across social media around 2017, promising ordinary people the secrets to making millions from digital coins. These weren't your typical investment advisors, they were flashy internet personalities flashing Lamborghinis and designer watches, claiming they'd cracked the code to guaranteed crypto profits. The pitch was irresistible: pay a few $100s for exclusive access to their VushyPay trading room and receive real-time buy and sell signals that would supposedly turn your spare change into retirement money. Well, here's where things get interesting. These trading gurus charged anywhere from $200 to $2,000 monthly for access to their private Discord servers or Telegram channels. Members received constant notifications: buy Bitcoin now, or sell Ethereum in 3 minutes. The problem: these signals were about as accurate as a weather forecast made by throwing darts at a calendar. Most trades lost money consistently, but the room leaders had a clever excuse ready: market manipulation by big banks, government interference, or the classic "you didn't follow the signal fast enough." The real money wasn't being made from trading at all. These scammers profited purely from membership fees, not from any actual cryptocurrency knowledge. When complaints piled up and members demanded refunds, the trading rooms would suddenly disappear overnight. New ones popped up immediately with different names but identical promises. The cycle repeated endlessly, targeting fresh victims who dreamed of easy crypto riches but ended up with empty wallets instead. 68. Foreign lottery scams hit your inbox like clockwork, promising millions from contests you never entered. The email arrives with official-looking letterheads, complete with legal jargon and congratulatory language that makes your heart skip a beat. You've supposedly won the Spanish National Lottery, the UK Premium Bond Drawing, or some mysterious international sweepstakes worth $37 million. But here's where it gets interesting. These scammers know exactly which buttons to push. They create urgency by claiming your winnings will expire in 72 hours unless you respond immediately. The psychology is brilliant and twisted at the same time. Who wouldn't want to believe they're suddenly rich? The hook comes next: taxes and processing fees must be paid up front. They'll ask for anywhere from $500 to $15,000 to release your prize money. Makes sense, right? Well, not really. Legitimate lotteries deduct taxes from winnings, they don't demand payment from winners. Then there's the targeting strategy these criminals use. They flood email systems with thousands of messages daily, knowing that even a tiny response rate generates massive profits. Seniors and immigrants face the heaviest bombardment, often receiving multiple lottery wins per week from different supposed organizations. The FBI releases warnings about these scams every single year, yet people continue falling victim. The promised winnings never materialize because no lottery exists in the first place. Victims lose their tax payments forever, while scammers move on to their next batch of fake winners, leaving behind empty email accounts and disconnected phone numbers. 69. Cash advance schemes prey on desperation with surgical precision. These operations set up shop in strip malls and online, promising quick paydays for anyone facing an emergency. The pitch sounds reasonable enough: borrow a few $100s today, pay it back when your next paycheck arrives. What could go wrong? Everything, as it turns out. The interest rates hit harder than a freight train. We're talking about annual percentage rates that can soar past 400%. That $300 loan to fix your car suddenly becomes a $400 payment in 2 weeks. Miss that deadline? The fees start piling up like snow in a blizzard. Then comes the rollover trap. Can't pay the full amount? No problem. They'll extend your loan for just another small fee. This small fee becomes a monthly subscription to financial hell. Borrowers find themselves paying hundreds in fees, while the original loan amount stays practically untouched. The targeting gets downright predatory. These operations cluster in low-income neighborhoods where people have fewer banking options. They know exactly when social security checks arrive, when tax refunds hit accounts, when people are most vulnerable. The marketing speaks directly to crisis. Car broke down, rent due tomorrow. We can help. Many states have cracked down hard, passing laws that cap interest rates and limit rollovers, but the industry adapts like water finding cracks in concrete. Online lenders operate from states with looser regulations, tribal lands claim sovereignty from state laws, and some companies restructure as credit repair services instead. The cycle continues, trapping families who started with small problems and end up drowning in manufactured debt that grows faster than they can possibly pay it off. 70. Phone scammers found a new goldmine in 2012 when smartphones became everyone's constant companion. They started calling people claiming to pay top dollar for cracked screens and broken phones. The pitch sounded reasonable enough. Your busted iPhone sitting in a drawer could suddenly become cash in your pocket. These buyers would quote impressive prices over the phone. A cracked iPhone 4 might fetch $150, they'd say. An Android with a dead battery, still worth $75. They'd even cover shipping costs and provide prepaid labels. All you had to do was box up your broken phone and send it off. The whole operation felt legitimate at first. Many victims received professional-looking emails with detailed instructions and tracking information. Some scammers even set up official-looking websites with customer service numbers and testimonials from supposedly satisfied sellers. But here's where things went sideways. Once people shipped their phones, the buyers vanished completely. Phone numbers disconnected, emails bounced back, websites disappeared overnight. The promised payments never arrived, and the broken phones were gone forever. What made this scam particularly clever was the target inventory. Most people had old phones lying around that seemed worthless anyway. The scammers knew victims wouldn't immediately panic over a missing device they weren't using. By the time people realized they'd been duped, weeks had passed and the trail had gone cold. Police reports poured in from coast to coast, but tracking down these fly-by-night operations proved nearly impossible. The scammers used fake business names, temporary addresses, and disposable phone numbers. Even when authorities identified the perpetrators, recovering the stolen phones was hopeless. 71. Online auction sniper software promised the holy grail for eBay addicts everywhere. Win every single auction you wanted, guaranteed. Just download their magical program, enter your maximum bid, and watch it automatically outbid everyone in the final seconds. What could go wrong? Everything, as it turns out. These programs were about as reliable as a chocolate teapot. Half the time, the software wouldn't even install properly on your computer. The other half, it would crash right when you needed it most, leaving you staring at a program has stopped working message, while someone else walked away with that vintage baseball card you'd been stalking for weeks. But here's where it gets really sneaky. The scammers knew people would be frustrated when their miracle software failed, so they made sure getting a refund was harder than solving a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. Customer service numbers went straight to voicemail. Email addresses bounced back. Support tickets disappeared into the digital void. The real kicker? Most of these advanced bidding tools were just basic scripts that anyone could write in an afternoon. Some didn't even connect to eBay's servers properly. They were charging $50 to $200 for what amounted to digital snake oil in a fancy wrapper. Then there were the lawsuits. Turns out, creating fake software and taking people's money is frowned upon by both the law and eBay itself. The auction giant started cracking down hard, banning accounts that used unauthorized bidding tools. So even if the software worked, users often found themselves locked out of eBay permanently. The sellers? They vanished faster than free donuts at a police station. 72. Diet patches promised something magical back in the day. Slap one on your arm, and boom, overnight weight loss without changing anything else. The ads flooded daytime television like a broken dam. Housewives watching their stories got bombarded with before and after photos that looked suspiciously like different people entirely. These patches claimed they could melt fat while you slept. The science? Well, there wasn't any. Most contained caffeine or some herbal extract that wouldn't help a hamster lose weight, let alone a human. But the marketing genius was in the simplicity. No dieting, No exercise, just stick and lose. Americans love shortcuts, especially when it comes to weight loss. The Federal Trade Commission eventually got fed up with the whole charade. They started issuing mass warnings faster than you could say miracle cure. But here's the kicker. People kept buying them anyway. The patches cost anywhere from $19.99 to $89.99 for a month's supply, which added up to serious money for absolutely zero results. Then there were the side effects nobody talked about in those glossy commercials. Skin irritation became common. Some users developed rashes that lasted weeks. Others experienced jitters from the caffeine content, but still no weight loss to show for their suffering. The most frustrating part: these companies would disappear faster than cookies at a PTA meeting once complaints started rolling in. They'd rebrand, change the patch color from beige to clear, and start the whole cycle over again. Different name, same worthless product. Fresh batch of hopeful customers ready to believe. 73. Crowdfunding platforms were supposed to democratize charity and innovation. Instead, they became perfect hunting grounds for scammers who mastered the art of fake sob stories and phony emergencies. These digital con artists discovered that nothing opens wallets faster than a desperate family needing medical help or a brilliant inventor just one donation away from changing the world. The formula became depressingly predictable. Scammers would create heart-wrenching campaigns featuring sick children, house fire victims, or families facing eviction. They'd steal photos from legitimate fundraisers or social media accounts, craft emotional backstories, and watch the money pour in. The beauty of the scheme: no physical product to deliver, no face-to-face meetings, and platforms that asked few questions as long as donations kept flowing. Medical emergencies proved especially lucrative. Fraudsters would post pictures of children in hospital beds, often stolen from real families, and claim urgent need for experimental treatments. They'd set modest goals that seemed achievable, knowing that successful campaigns often exceed their targets by huge margins. The emotional manipulation was surgical in its precision. Then there were the fake business ventures. Scammers promised revolutionary products that would solve everyday problems, complete with slick videos and professional-looking prototypes. They'd claim to need just enough funding to finish development or secure manufacturing deals. Backers eagerly contributed, dreaming of getting in early on the next big thing. Most platforms eventually caught on and removed fraudulent campaigns, but the damage was done. By the time investigations began, the scammers had already disappeared with thousands of dollars from generous strangers who thought they were helping real people in genuine need. 74. Cold calls promising exclusive access to hot IPO stocks have been ringing phones for decades. The pitch sounds incredible. Get in early on the next Apple or Google before it goes public. Just wire money fast because spots are filling up quickly. These callers claim to represent legitimate investment firms with inside connections to Wall Street's biggest deals. The reality: no legitimate broker cold calls random people with IPO opportunities. Real investment banks have strict regulations about who can participate in initial public offerings. They work with institutional investors and wealthy clients who meet specific financial requirements. Random phone calls offering guaranteed IPO access are always fraudulent. These scammers often target elderly investors who remember stories about early Microsoft or Amazon shareholders getting rich. They create fake brokerage websites and use official-sounding company names. Some even send professional-looking documents to make their pitch more convincing. The pressure tactics are relentless. This opportunity expires at midnight, or I can only hold your spot for 10 minutes. When victims send money, they receive nothing. No stock certificates, no account statements, no returns on investment. The fake brokers disappear with the cash, leaving victims with empty promises and drained bank accounts. The Securities and Exchange Commission receives thousands of complaints about these scams every year, but prosecuting the criminals proves difficult since many operate from overseas locations. Well, the warning signs are obvious once you know what to look for. Legitimate investment opportunities don't come through unsolicited phone calls, and real brokers never demand immediate wire transfers for exclusive access to anything. 75. Online survey sites promise easy money for clicking buttons and answering questions. Sounds like a dream job, right? Just sit at home, share your opinions about breakfast cereal or TV shows, and watch the cash roll in. Well, the reality hits differently when you realize most of these operations are elaborate traps designed to collect your personal information and steal your money. The scam works in layers. First, they hook you with ads showing people earning hundreds of dollars weekly just for taking surveys. These fake testimonials flood social media, especially targeting college students drowning in debt or stay-at-home parents looking for extra income. The websites look professional, complete with payment-proof screenshots and glowing reviews from satisfied members. But here's where things get sketchy. Before you can start earning those promised riches, you need to pay a registration fee or provide your banking details for direct deposit setup. Some sites demand your social security number for tax purposes. Red flags everywhere, yet desperate people hand over this information daily. The surveys themselves are either non-existent or pay fractions of pennies per hour. When you try to cash out your measly earnings, the minimum withdrawal threshold keeps moving higher. Customer service stops responding to emails. The points you accumulated mysteriously disappear from your account. Then the real damage begins. Your banking information gets sold to other scammers. Your email inbox floods with spam. Credit cards you never applied for appear in your name. Meanwhile, the survey company vanishes into thin air, leaving behind angry victims who learned an expensive lesson about get-rich-quick schemes that target financial desperation. 76. Fake health insurance sounds like something out of a movie, but it happens more than you'd think. These scammers create entire companies that look legitimate on paper. They have websites, customer service numbers, and even send out official-looking cards. The catch? None of it actually works when you need medical care. These operations target people who can't afford regular insurance or those who work for themselves. The scammers offer plans that cost way less than real insurance. They'll promise coverage for everything from doctor visits to major surgeries. Sounds too good to be true. Well, it usually is. Here's where it gets really cruel. People pay monthly premiums thinking they're protected. They might go months or even years without needing medical care, so they never discover the truth. Then something serious happens. A heart attack, cancer diagnosis, or car accident sends them to the hospital. That's when they find out their insurance is worthless. The fake companies either disappear completely or claim the medical issue isn't covered. Meanwhile, the victim faces massive hospital bills they thought insurance would handle. Some people end up losing their homes or declaring bankruptcy because of medical debt they never saw coming. These scams often pop up during times when healthcare costs are rising fast. The scammers know people are desperate for affordable options. They use that desperation against them. What makes it worse is that victims often don't realize they've been scammed until they're already in a medical emergency and can't do anything about it. 77. Laundromats have always been boring places where people wash clothes and wait around, but some scammers figured out how to turn these mundane businesses into money-making schemes that promised victims a share of profits that never existed. The coin laundering business scam targeted people looking for passive income opportunities, especially in big cities where laundromats seemed like steady investments. Here's how it worked. Scammers would approach potential victims with a proposition that sounded almost too good to be true. They claimed to have figured out ways to manipulate coin-operated washing machines and dryers to generate extra revenue. The pitch was simple: invest money to help them set up operations at multiple laundromat locations, and you'd get a percentage of the increased profits. Some versions involved tampering with machines to collect more coins than customers actually inserted. The scammers made it sound legitimate by showing fake receipts and profit statements from previous successful operations. They'd even take victims to actual laundromats and point out specific machines they claimed were already generating bonus revenue. Victims were told they needed to act fast because other investors were lining up for these exclusive opportunities. Of course, the whole thing was nonsense. The machines weren't generating any extra money, and the scammers had no real operations running anywhere. Once victims handed over their cash, the fraudsters would disappear completely. Police raids on these rings happened every few years, usually after enough victims came forward to report losses. City residents lost thousands thinking they'd found an easy way to profit from dirty laundry. 78. The Beanie Baby craze of the 1990s wasn't just about cute stuffed animals. Investment promoters convinced millions of Americans that these small toys would fund their retirement. They pushed rare editions as guaranteed gold mines that would only increase in value. People maxed out credit cards buying Princess Bears and rare Peanut the elephants. Entire families treated McDonald's Happy Meal toys like stock portfolios. The madness reached peak insanity when a single Beanie Baby sold for $5,000 at auction. Suddenly everyone believed their garage full of fabric creatures would make them rich. Investment experts wrote books about which colors and tag errors meant big money. They hosted seminars where desperate collectors learned the secrets of Beanie Baby wealth building. Makes sense, right? Except it was all built on artificial hype. Then reality hit harder than a deflated balloon. The market collapsed almost overnight when Tie Inc. announced they were discontinuing the line. Those $5,000 bears became worth about $5. People who spent their kids' college funds on stuffed animals watched their dreams evaporate. The supposed investment advisors vanished faster than you could say retirement plan. But why did smart adults fall for this? The promoters used classic manipulation tactics. They created false scarcity, spread rumors about discontinued models, and showed cherry-picked success stories. They made collecting feel like insider trading. The weird part is how many people knew it seemed ridiculous but got caught up anyway. Social proof is a powerful drug, especially when your neighbor just bought a boat with Beanie Baby profits. 79. Resume writing services love desperate job seekers. They promise magical transformations that'll land you the dream job instantly. Pay their fee and suddenly your ordinary work history becomes pure gold on paper. Well, that's the sales pitch anyway. These companies flood job boards with ads targeting recent graduates and unemployed workers. Professional resume writers guarantee interviews, they shout. The fees range from $200 to $800 for what they call executive-level packages. Young professionals, already drowning in student debt, scrape together the money hoping this investment will change everything. But here's the kicker. Most of these services use basic templates you could find free online. They plug your information into generic formats that look identical to thousands of other resumes. The professional writers are often freelancers with no recruiting experience, working for minimum wage in content mills. Then there's the brutal reality check. Real recruiters spend about 6 seconds scanning each resume. They're looking for relevant experience and skills, not fancy fonts or flowery language. A perfectly formatted resume means nothing if you don't have the qualifications employers want. The cruel irony. Many job seekers who use these services actually perform worse in their search. Their resumes become overwritten, stuffed with buzzwords that make them sound fake. Hiring managers can spot these cookie-cutter resumes immediately. Meanwhile, the resume writing companies keep collecting fees from the next batch of hopeful job seekers. They're not selling resume writing, they're selling false hope to people who are already vulnerable. The real magic happens when candidates focus on building actual skills instead of paying for prettier paperwork. 80. Resume distribution services sound like a brilliant shortcut to landing your dream job. Pay a fee, and supposedly your resume gets blasted to hundreds of employers who are desperately seeking someone with your exact skills. What could go wrong? Everything, actually. These companies collect your personal information, along with hefty fees, promising to send your resume to their exclusive network of hiring managers. The reality? Your resume gets tossed into the digital equivalent of a black hole. Most of these services don't maintain real relationships with employers. They're essentially buying email lists and spam blasting resumes to random addresses. The Federal Trade Commission has been investigating these scams since 2014, after complaints skyrocketed. Victims reported paying anywhere from $50 to $500 for services that delivered 0 job interviews. Worse yet, many found themselves receiving even more spam emails after signing up. Their contact information had been sold to other marketing companies. Here's the kicker. Legitimate employers rarely use these services to find candidates. They rely on their own recruiting teams, job boards, or professional networks. When a resume arrives through a mass distribution service, it often gets filtered straight into the trash folder. The scammers prey on job seekers' desperation, especially during economic downturns when competition is fierce. They promise to save you time and effort, but they're really just taking your money while doing nothing useful with your resume. Real networking and direct applications to companies remain far more effective than paying someone to spray your resume across the internet like digital confetti. 81. Fake modeling agencies prey on dreams with surgical precision. They set up shop in major cities, rent fancy offices for a few months, and plaster social media with casting calls. The promise? Turn your teenager into the next supermodel. But first you need professional photos. The pitch sounds legitimate at first. Real agencies do require portfolios after all. What makes this a scam is the massive upfront fee, usually between $2,000 and $5,000 for a portfolio package. They'll throw around names of famous photographers and mention connections to major fashion brands. Some even show fake contracts with modeling agencies that don't exist. Here's where it gets ugly. After families drain their savings for the photo shoot, the agency delivers a handful of mediocre pictures and vague promises about shopping them around. The follow-up calls never come. When parents try to reach the agency a few months later, they find disconnected phone lines and empty offices. The timing of these scams is no accident. They pop up every fashion week, targeting families who watch runway shows and think their kid could be up there. Teen magazines and social media make the dream feel more achievable than ever. The scammers know exactly when parents are most vulnerable to spending big money on their child's big break. What's particularly cruel is how these operations specifically target families who can least afford to lose thousands of dollars. They prey on parents who work multiple jobs but still dream of giving their kids a shot at stardom. The emotional damage often exceeds the financial loss. 82. Publishing a book sounds like a dream come true, doesn't it? Well, scammers know this, and they've turned that dream into a nightmare for thousands of hopeful authors. These fake publishing companies promise to turn your manuscript into a bestseller, but the only person getting rich is them. Here's how it works. You write your book, maybe it's a romance novel or your life story. Then you see an ad claiming, "We'll publish your book and make you famous." Sounds amazing, right? But here's the catch. They want thousands of dollars up front for editing, marketing and distribution. The editing turns out to be a quick spell check. The marketing, maybe they'll post about your book on their Facebook page that has 12 followers, and that distribution they promised. Your books get printed and shipped directly to your garage. Most of these scam publishers print exactly as many copies as you pay for. So if you paid for 1,000 books, guess what's sitting in boxes in your spare room? All 1,000 copies. They never intended to sell them in stores or online. Real publishers don't ask authors for money up front. They make money when your book sells, so they only publish books they think will actually sell. But these scammers make their money from desperate authors, not book sales. The worst part, many victims spend their life savings thinking they're about to become the next Stephen King. Instead, they become amateur warehouse managers with a garage full of books nobody wants. 83. Social media followers have become the new gold rush. Companies promise thousands of real followers delivered fast, and desperate influencers hand over their cash without thinking twice. The math seems simple. More followers equals more credibility, which means more money. But here's the kicker. These followers aren't real people at all. Most paid followers are bots or fake accounts created in massive server farms overseas. They have generic profile pictures, weird usernames with random numbers, and they never actually engage with content. The scammers running these operations can generate thousands of fake accounts in minutes using automated software. Your follower count jumps overnight, but your engagement rates plummet because robots don't buy products or click on ads. Then there's the platform backlash. Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok have gotten smart about detecting fake followers. They run regular purges where millions of bot accounts get deleted instantly. Influencers wake up to find their follower count cut in half, sometimes losing tens of thousands of fake followers in a single day. Even worse, platforms might flag accounts that bought followers and restrict their reach or ban them completely. Small businesses get hit hardest by this scam. They spend hundreds of dollars trying to look successful online, only to realize their fake followers can't actually buy their products. Real customers can spot fake engagement from miles away. When an account has 50,000 followers but only gets 12 likes per post, something's obviously wrong. The scammers disappear with the money while their victims are left with worthless numbers that hurt more than they help. 84. The Federal Trade Commission gets about 20,000 complaints every year about invention promotion scams. That's roughly 55 people getting ripped off daily by companies promising to turn their brilliant ideas into cash machines. These outfits have mastered the art of preying on dreamers who think they've stumbled onto the next iPhone or sliced bread. Here's how the con works. You see an ad that says, "Have an invention, we'll help you get rich." So you call them up, excited about your garage door opener that plays music or whatever genius contraption you've cooked up. They sound super professional and tell you your idea is fantastic and has real market potential. Of course it does. They say that to everyone. Then comes the hook. They need money up front for a professional evaluation of your invention, maybe $500 to start, then another $2,000 for a market analysis, followed by $5,000 for patent research. The fees keep climbing like a broken elevator. What do you get for all that cash? A few photocopied pages with generic information you could have found on Google in 10 minutes. They might throw in some official-looking charts and graphs to make it seem legit. But here's the kicker. They never actually file any real patents or contact any real manufacturers. The worst part? These scammers often steal the ideas they claim to be helping with. Your brilliant invention ends up in their hands while your bank account gets emptied. The FTC has shut down dozens of these operations, but new ones pop up faster than whack-a-moles at a carnival. 85. Identity protection companies love to scare you. They show up with flashy ads about hackers stealing your personal information while you sleep. Their pitch sounds reasonable enough. Might even pay them a monthly fee and they'll monitor your credit, scan the dark web and alert you to suspicious activity. What they don't mention is how little actual protection you're getting for your money. Most of these services simply repackage information you can already get for free. Credit monitoring. The major credit bureaus offer that at no cost. Dark web scanning. It's mostly theater. They're checking databases that are already public knowledge. The real kicker comes when you try to cancel. Suddenly that simple monthly service turns into a nightmare of hidden fees and impossible to reach customer service representatives. The worst part isn't even the money you lose up front. It's what happens after you sign up. These companies often sell your contact information to other marketing firms. Your inbox gets flooded with more scam offers. Your phone rings constantly with robocalls. The very service that promised to protect your privacy ends up destroying it completely. Then there's the subscription trap. Many customers report being charged for months or even years after attempting to cancel. All the fine print buried in their contracts makes it nearly impossible to get out once you're in. Consumer protection agencies receive thousands of complaints about these practices every year, but the companies keep operating under new names and slightly different business models. They prey on legitimate fears about identity theft while providing virtually no real security benefits. 86. Here's the wild part about cryptojacking scams. They literally turned people's computers into unpaid Bitcoin miners. Scammers would advertise software that supposedly let you mine cryptocurrency from home and make passive income while you sleep. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, the software was real. It did mine cryptocurrency, just not for you. The victims would download what they thought was their ticket to digital riches, only to find their computers suddenly running like they were powered by hamsters. Fans spinning at maximum speed, programs crashing left and right, electricity bills shooting through the roof. Meanwhile, every Bitcoin fraction their computer managed to scrape together went straight into the scammer's wallet. Not a single penny ever reached the actual computer owner. What made this scam particularly clever was how it piggybacked on the cryptocurrency boom. People were hearing stories about folks getting rich from Bitcoin mining, but they didn't understand the technical details. The scammers exploited that knowledge gap perfectly. They'd promise easy money with zero effort. Just install this program and watch the cash roll in. The victims never got paid anything, obviously. Some people ran these programs for months, wondering why their earnings never showed up. Their computers would overheat, slow to a crawl, or even break entirely from the constant strain. Tech companies eventually caught on and started flagging these programs as malware. But by then, the scammers had already made their money and moved on to the next scheme. 87. Job interviews make people nervous enough without scammers making it worse. These con artists prey on desperate job seekers by selling expensive prep courses that promise guaranteed interview success. They claim to have insider knowledge of questions that employers will definitely ask. The reality? Most of their advice comes straight from free websites and basic career books you can find at any library. These fake course sellers love targeting recent college graduates and people who've been unemployed for months. They know these folks are vulnerable and willing to spend their last few $100s if it means landing a job. The scammers create official-looking websites with testimonials from successful students who supposedly got hired immediately after taking the course. Of course, these testimonials are completely made up. What makes this scam particularly cruel is the timing. People usually discover these courses when they're already stressed about upcoming interviews. The scammers promise to send exclusive interview questions that specific companies use, along with perfect answers that will impress any hiring manager. They charge anywhere from $200 to $800 for this supposedly secret information. The courses themselves are laughably basic. They might tell you to dress professionally, arrive on time, and research the company beforehand. Groundbreaking stuff, right? Some victims report receiving nothing more than a PDF file with generic interview tips copied from career websites. Others get access to low-quality video recordings of someone reading obvious advice. The promised job contacts and inside connections never materialize. Meanwhile, the course sellers have moved on to their next batch of desperate job seekers, leaving buyers with empty wallets and no better interview prospects. 88. ATM machines used to feel pretty safe, right? You'd walk up, insert your card, punch in your PIN, grab your cash and head home. Well, scammers found a way to turn that simple transaction into their personal goldmine. They started promising people they could magically pull unlimited cash from any ATM using secret software or special techniques. The pitch usually went something like this. Download our exclusive program, enter your banking details and watch the money flow. Sounds too good to be true? That's because it absolutely was. These con artists would post ads on Craigslist, sketchy forums and even social media. They'd claim their ATM scripts could bypass security systems and generate instant cash withdrawals. The victims, desperate for quick money, would hand over their online banking credentials without thinking twice. What happened next was predictable but devastating. Instead of making money, people watched their accounts get completely drained by these fake programs. The scammers weren't actually hacking ATMs at all. They were simply using stolen login information to transfer money out of victims' accounts through normal online banking. Makes sense, right? No magical software existed. No secret ATM codes. Just good old-fashioned identity theft dressed up with fancy tech language. Banks started noticing these patterns and ramped up their security measures, but the damage was already done. Thousands of people learned the hard way that ATMs don't have cheat codes, and anyone promising otherwise is probably running a scam. 89. The government auction scam preys on one simple human weakness: everyone believes they're smart enough to spot a real bargain. These con artists sell books and guides promising access to secret government auctions where you can supposedly buy cars for $100 or homes for $5. Sounds too good to be true? Well, that's because it absolutely is. The scammers create glossy advertisements, showing luxury cars and beautiful houses with impossibly low price tags. They claim the government desperately wants to get rid of seized property and will practically give it away to anyone who knows where to look. The books cost anywhere from $29 to $199, depending on how greedy the scammers feel that day. What do buyers actually get for their money? Outdated lists of legitimate government auctions mixed with completely fabricated sales that never existed in the first place. Here's the kicker. Real government auctions do exist, but they're already public information. You don't need to pay anyone for access. The General Services Administration posts all federal auctions online for free. State and local governments do the same thing on their official websites. But the scam books make it sound like you need insider knowledge to participate. They'll include testimonials from satisfied customers who supposedly bought Ferraris for pocket change. These people don't exist, of course. The whole operation relies on making victims feel like they're getting exclusive access to something special. Meanwhile, the only people getting rich are the ones selling the worthless guides to hopeful bargain hunters across America. 90. Tech support scammers have turned lying into an art form. They call millions of people every day, claiming to be from Microsoft, Apple, or some other big tech company. The caller always sounds urgent. "Ma'am, we've detected a serious virus on your computer," they'll say. "If we don't fix it right now, you could lose everything." Here's the thing though, Microsoft doesn't call random people about computer problems. Neither does Apple. These companies have better things to do than cold call strangers about viruses. But the scammers sound so official, so concerned about your well-being. The really clever part comes next. They ask you to turn on your computer and give them remote access so they can fix the problem. Once you do that, you've basically handed them the keys to your digital life. They can see everything: your banking passwords, your personal photos, your tax documents, everything. Or while they're supposedly fixing your computer, they're actually installing software that lets them control it whenever they want. Some victims watch their mouse cursor move around the screen by itself days later. Creepy, right? The scammers often ask for payment up front, usually a few $100s for their premium protection service. They prefer gift cards because those payments can't be traced or reversed. By the time victims realize they've been tricked, the scammers have vanished with their money and access to their computers. These operations have exploded since 2014, targeting millions of Americans who just wanted to keep their computers safe. 91. Home energy bills keep climbing, and desperate homeowners will try almost anything to slash those monthly costs. Enter the magical world of plug-in power savers, little plastic boxes that supposedly cut your electric bill in half just by plugging them into any wall outlet. These devices flood state fairs, online marketplaces, and late-night infomercials with promises that sound too good to pass up. The sales pitch is brilliantly simple. Just plug this small device into your wall and watch your electric meter slow down dramatically. All rewiring, no complicated installation, no electrician needed. The gadget allegedly conditions your home's electricity, making everything run more efficiently. Some versions claim to reduce power consumption by 30% to 50% overnight. At $50 to $200 per unit, They seem like bargains compared to expensive solar panels or home upgrades. But here's the reality check. These devices do absolutely nothing to reduce your power usage. Most are essentially empty plastic boxes with a few LED lights to make them look sophisticated. The ones that aren't completely fake contain basic capacitors that might slightly improve power factor in industrial settings, but provide zero benefit in typical homes. Your electric meter measures real power consumption, not power factor, so even a legitimate power factor correction device won't lower your residential bill. Consumer testing labs have repeatedly proven these gadgets worthless. Yet they keep selling because people desperately want to believe in easy solutions. The scammers know exactly how to prey on that hope, especially when energy costs are rising and families are struggling to make ends meet. 92. Social Security scammers have found their perfect target. Seniors who depend on monthly checks often panic when someone calls claiming their benefits will stop. The caller sounds official, uses government language, and creates urgent fear. Your Social Security number has been suspended due to suspicious activity, they announce with practiced authority. Here's what makes this scam so effective. It exploits real anxiety. Older Americans worry constantly about losing their income. When a stranger calls with detailed personal information and official-sounding threats, many believe it's legitimate. The scammer then demands an immediate administrative fee to restore benefits. They might ask for gift card numbers, wire transfers, or direct bank account access. But here's the thing that should immediately raise red flags. The Social Security Administration never calls people about account problems. They send letters. Real government workers don't demand iTunes gift cards to fix your benefits. They don't threaten to arrest you over the phone for Social Security issues. These criminals often know surprising details about their victims. They might have your real address, partial Social Security numbers, or family member names. This information comes from data breaches, public records, or previous scams. It makes their calls sound incredibly convincing. The government issues warnings every year, but the calls keep coming. Seniors lose thousands of dollars annually to these schemes. The scammers are usually located overseas, making prosecution nearly impossible. They change phone numbers constantly and target different areas each week. Law enforcement struggles to keep up with the volume of complaints flooding in from desperate families. 93. Student loan forgiveness sounds like a dream come true when you're drowning in debt. That's exactly what scammers count on. These fraudsters prey on desperate college graduates who are struggling to make monthly payments on loans that seem to grow bigger every year. The scam works by promising to eliminate your student debt entirely for just a small upfront fee. Here's how they hook you. They call claiming to represent the Department of Education or some official-sounding agency. They know your name, sometimes even your loan amount, making it seem legitimate. Good news, they say, you qualify for total loan forgiveness under a special government program. All you need to do is pay a processing fee of $500 to $1,500 to get started. The truth? The government never charges fees for legitimate loan forgiveness programs. Real forgiveness programs are free to apply for and have strict requirements like working in public service for 10 years. These scammers collect your fee and disappear. Worse, they often steal your personal information during the application process, using it for identity theft. College towns see the highest concentration of these scams. Students and recent graduates are easy targets because they're already stressed about money. The scammers know exactly which buttons to push, mentioning specific loan forgiveness programs that actually exist but twisting the details. The government has created special response teams to combat these scams, but new ones pop up constantly. They change names and phone numbers faster than authorities can shut them down. Always remember, legitimate loan forgiveness is handled directly through your loan servicer, not through random phone calls promising instant relief. 94. Cryptocurrency initial coin offerings burst onto the scene like digital gold rush fever. Everyone wanted in. The promise was simple: buy our brand new cryptocurrency before it hits the market, and watch your investment skyrocket when it goes public. Sounds legit, right? Well, that's exactly what scammers were counting on. These fraudulent ICOs collected millions from eager investors who thought they were getting early access to the next Bitcoin. The scammers created fancy websites, wrote impressive white papers full of technical jargon, and even hired actors to pose as their development teams. They promised revolutionary blockchain technology that would change everything from banking to pizza delivery. But here's the kicker. Most of these revolutionary cryptocurrencies didn't exist beyond a few lines of marketing copy. The scammers would rake in cash from thousands of investors, then vanish faster than your Wi-Fi connection during a video call. No working product, no actual cryptocurrency, just empty promises and stolen money. The 2017 cryptocurrency boom made things even worse. With Bitcoin hitting record highs, everyone wanted to find the next big digital currency. Scammers took advantage of this excitement, launching fake ICOs almost daily. Some managed to steal tens of millions before disappearing completely. The SEC started cracking down hard, investigating hundreds of fraudulent ICOs each year. They discovered that many of these scams operated from overseas, making it nearly impossible to recover the stolen funds. Investors learned the hard way that not every digital currency opportunity leads to digital riches. 95. Investment clubs sound fancy, don't they? Like some exclusive group where rich people gather in leather chairs, sipping brandy and making millions. Well, scammers figured out how to weaponize that fantasy. They create fake investment clubs that charge membership fees, but never actually invest your money anywhere except their own pockets. These schemes typically start with classified ads or social media posts, promising access to secret investment strategies. The pitch always sounds the same. Join our exclusive club of successful investors and learn the insider tricks that make us rich. They'll throw around impressive-sounding terms and maybe even show fake testimonials from supposed members who've made fortunes. Here's how the scam works. You pay an upfront fee, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of dollars, to join this elite group. The scammers promise you'll receive monthly profits from the club's collective investments. They might send you fancy-looking reports or newsletters to make everything seem legitimate. Some even hold meetings where they talk about market trends and investment opportunities. But here's the kicker. Your money never gets invested. The leaders just pocket all those membership fees and monthly dues. Any profits they show you are completely fabricated. When members start asking too many questions or demanding real returns, the whole operation suddenly disappears. Most of these fake clubs collapse within months. The organizers vanish with everyone's money, leaving members with nothing but worthless certificates and empty promises. It's basically a pyramid scheme dressed up in expensive-looking business suits and financial jargon. 96. Mystery shopping sounds like the perfect side hustle, doesn't it? Get paid to browse stores, buy stuff, and report back on your experience. Well, scammers turned this legitimate gig into a nightmare for thousands of Americans. They don't just steal your money, they steal your entire identity. Here's how they hook you. The company contacts you through email or job boards, claiming you've been selected for high-paying mystery shopping assignments. They sound professional, use official-looking letterheads, and promise $300-500 per assignment. Who wouldn't bite? Then comes the trap. They need your social security number for tax purposes, and your banking information for direct deposit. Makes sense, right? Wrong. Real mystery shopping companies never ask for this upfront. But victims hand over everything, thinking they've landed easy money. The fake assignments arrive next. Go buy $200 in gift cards and report on customer service. They send you a check to cover expenses, except the check is completely bogus. By the time your bank discovers it's fake, you've already bought the gift cards and sent the codes to the scammers. Let's not forget the identity theft part. Those social security numbers and bank details. They're sold on the dark web or used to open credit accounts in your name. Victims discover fraudulent loans, credit cards, and even mortgages they never applied for. The Federal Trade Commission created a special task force in 2022 just to tackle these scams. They've received over 50,000 complaints, with average losses of $1,200 per victim. The real mystery isn't about shopping, it's how people keep falling for this obvious con. 97. College prep test companies have been scaring parents and students for decades with promises of guaranteed SAT score improvements. These kits typically cost anywhere from $200 to $800, which is more than most families spend on actual tutoring. The marketing usually involves flashy brochures showing before and after scores that jump 300 points or more. What they don't tell you, those testimonials are often completely fabricated. Most of these kits contain nothing more than basic practice questions you can find free online. The secret strategies they advertise are usually just standard test-taking tips like read the question carefully or eliminate wrong answers first. Makes sense, right? You're paying hundreds of dollars for advice your high school guidance counselor gives out for free. The real kicker comes when you dig into their success claims. Companies love to throw around statistics like students improved an average of 240 points. But they never mention how many students actually completed the program or saw any improvement at all. The College Board itself has warned parents about these schemes multiple times over the years. Then there's the timing aspect. These kits often arrive just weeks before test dates, giving students barely any time to work through the materials properly. Many families report receiving outdated information that doesn't match current test formats. The worst part? Some companies have been caught selling the exact same content under different brand names, just changing the cover design and bumping up the price by another $100. 98. Group vacation scams prey on people's desire to travel cheaply with friends, family, or organizations. The con artists behind these operations know exactly what buttons to push. They advertise incredible deals through social media, targeting schools, churches, sports teams, and community groups. Take 30 people to Disney World for just $200 each. Sounds too good to pass up, especially when everyone's pooling money together. Here's how the scam works. The fake travel company collects deposits from everyone in the group, usually demanding full payment up front to secure the best rates. They create professional-looking websites with stock photos of happy families at resorts. Some even provide fake confirmation numbers and itineraries to make everything seem legitimate. The group organizer, often a well-meaning parent or coach, becomes an unwitting accomplice by encouraging others to pay quickly before the limited-time offer expires. When departure day arrives, reality hits hard. Either nobody shows up to transport the group, or the entire operation has vanished overnight. Families who saved for months find themselves with worthless receipts and no vacation. The scammers have already moved the money offshore or spent it on personal expenses. What makes these scams particularly cruel is the social pressure involved. People trust the group organizer, who genuinely believed the deal was real. When everything falls apart, relationships within the community can be damaged. The scammers often target tight-knit groups because they know word spreads quickly, allowing them to collect more money before disappearing. Law enforcement struggles to prosecute because the criminals frequently operate across state lines. 99. Moving day is already stressful enough without getting scammed in the process. But fake moving companies have turned what should be a simple service into a nightmare for thousands of families. These scammers advertise incredibly low prices online, sometimes half what legitimate movers charge, and they know exactly how to target people who are desperate to save money during an expensive life transition. Here's how they operate. They demand full payment up front, claiming it's company policy or offering a discount for paying early. Red flag number 1, but people fall for it because the savings look too good to pass up. Then moving day arrives, and nobody shows up. The phone numbers go straight to voicemail. The website mysteriously disappears. Your belongings are still packed, your lease expires tomorrow, and your money is gone forever. But wait, it gets worse. Some fake moving companies actually do show up, load your stuff into a truck, then disappear with everything you own. They hold your belongings hostage and demand extra payments that weren't in the original contract. Families have lost wedding photos, heirloom furniture, and children's toys to these heartless operations. The really maddening part: online reviews expose the same scammers operating under different company names year after year. They create new websites, post fake testimonials, and start the cycle all over again. Law enforcement struggles to prosecute these cases because the criminals often operate across state lines, making jurisdiction complicated. By the time victims realize they've been scammed, the perpetrators have moved on to their next fake business identity. 100. Online stores started popping up everywhere in the early 2000s, promising amazing electronics at rock-bottom prices. The catch: you could buy now, pay later, without any credit checks or complicated paperwork. Sounds too good to be true. Well, it absolutely was. These scammers set up professional-looking websites selling everything from laptops to gaming consoles. They'd advertise the latest iPhone for half the retail price, then offer flexible payment plans that seemed incredibly generous. Pay just $50 up front, then spread the rest over 6 months. No interest, no hassle, no problem. But here's where things got nasty. Once you handed over that initial payment and your credit card information, the scammers had everything they needed. Your order would show as processing for weeks, then months. Customer service would give you the runaround with fake tracking numbers and shipping delays. The real kicker came when victims realized their credit information was being used for other fraudulent purchases. Not only did they never receive their discounted electronics, but they also found mysterious charges appearing on their statements. The scammers were essentially double-dipping, keeping the upfront payment and using stolen credit data for additional theft. Marketplace platforms like eBay and Amazon constantly remove these fake listings, but new ones appear almost daily. The websites typically disappear after collecting enough money, only to resurface under different names with identical schemes. Getting refunds proves nearly impossible since the companies exist only on paper, leaving victims with empty promises and maxed-out credit cards. 101. DIY legal form kits sound like a brilliant idea at first. Why pay a lawyer hundreds or thousands of dollars when you can buy a $39.99 kit that promises to handle your divorce, business formation, or estate planning? These kits have been flooding TV commercials for decades, targeting anyone facing legal issues who wants to save money. The companies behind these kits make it sound so simple. Fill out a few forms, mail them to the court, and you're done. No expensive lawyer fees, no complicated legal jargon to decode, just straightforward paperwork that supposedly works in every state. But here's where things get messy. Legal forms aren't one-size-fits-all products like a hammer or screwdriver. Each state has different laws, requirements, and procedures. A divorce form that works perfectly in California might be completely useless in Texas. The kits rarely mention this crucial detail in their flashy advertisements. Then there's the court rejection problem. When people submit these generic forms, clerks often reject them because they don't meet local requirements. The paperwork might be missing mandatory sections, use outdated language, or fail to include required attachments. Now the person has wasted their filing fees and still needs professional help. Consumer protection groups have been warning about these kits for years. They receive thousands of complaints from people who bought the forms, filled them out carefully, and then discovered their documents were worthless. Some folks end up paying more money to fix the mess than they would have spent hiring a lawyer from the beginning.